the influence of low pressure and its associated frontal system. Now, the more persistent rain we've seen across parts of Scotland today, that is going to start to clear away towards the north through the rest of this evening and overnight, but lingering across far northern parts of Scotland. And then elsewhere, yes, there will be some showery outbreaks of rain, but especially towards the east, a lot of dry, clear weather to come overnight. It is going to be a warm night, temperatures widely holding up in the mid to high teens, especially in the more built-up areas. First thing tomorrow, a wet start across the far north of Scotland then, and that rain is going to edge further south and eastwards through the day, but central southern parts of Scotland actually having a largely dry start, not totally dry. There will be some rain around. Across western parts of Northern Ireland, pretty wet first thing here, and that rain also pushing further southeastwards through the day. And then for England and Wales, some outbreaks of rain, mainly towards the west, central eastern parts, starting the day largely dry, and there will be some sunshine around. We're going to see more sunshine building across parts of the southeast, in particularly through into tomorrow afternoon. Cloudier further north and west, further rain to come. Worth bearing in mind across some parts of Scotland, the rain could turn quite heavy and thundery, particularly across central and eastern areas. It is going to be a blustery, breezy day for many of us. Strongest winds across parts of northern England and Northern Ireland, and temperatures down, especially in the southeast to today. On to Thursday, and there will be some showery rain, not a huge amount. It's not looking as heavy, not as thundery as some of the downpours that we've seen across some northern areas through today. And in the south, it's staying dry, and actually here it's going to stay dry through the rest of the week and into the weekend, with temperatures a bit lower than they have been recently, but perhaps picking up again by Saturday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're celebrating a golden summer with your chance to win a real gold bar. That's right, a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 could be yours. We're also going to make sure your finances are fabulous with £60,000 in tax-free cash. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okwir, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dan.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, "We saw you on television." I say, "Oh yes, on what?" "On GB News."
Hello, are you the famous Sue? The whole crew hid me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GBNews family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here, right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again. You just tuned in. Where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good evening. We are live from London. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America. So breaking right now, competitors have vanished after the Commonwealth Games, with reports some intend to claim asylum. Are major sporting events becoming a backdoor into Britain? Seriously, you couldn't make it up. And Europe under siege just days after 70,000 migrants overwhelmed Spain's border. Another mass crossing is already being planned. Can scenes like this be stopped? Of steel, 15,000 knives have been handed in through government bins. Has knife crime spiralled out of control?
This government is committed to halving knife crime within a decade, and progress has been made.
Air Miles Miliband, he's at it again. Britain's greenest cabinet minister is burning the jet fuel as he meets the President Donald Trump's administration today. What could possibly go wrong?
I think this trade deal is a really dangerous Trojan horse for which we seem to be locking ourselves in America in Donald Trump's boot.
Yeah, good luck with that one, Ed. MAGA mutiny. Mutiny. I thought I was about to say Nagamunchetti, but I'm not really saying that, am I? MAGA mutiny. You can see why I thought that. Trump's immigration chief is under fire from the MAGA movement. Has the White House gone soft on deportations?
You came over and you got temporary protective status. In its name itself, it says temporary. That doesn't mean you can't go for a family visa.
Jaws in Jersey. A 12-foot shark forced swimmers out of the sea in the English Channel. One of America's top experts will reveal why. I'm Nana Akwe, and this is The Late Show Live. So welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening in London is my panel, former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove and GB News contributor Paul Cox. And in Washington, former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Thank you for joining me tonight. Right, well, let's start with our main breaking news this evening. 5 athletes missing following the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, with reports that they plan to claim asylum in the UK. 4 Ugandan boxers are amongst them, with them meant to have flown home on Sunday. Of course, they didn't do that because, well, they felt they'd get better opportunities in this country. I mean, they said it themselves. But the quartet failed to appear for their return flight, and a police investigation has been launched. A Pakistani boxer has also vanished and did not board his return flight with teammates. And a reporter from MBS Sport, speaking on condition of anonymity, has also reportedly told outlets that the 4 Ugandan athletes intended to seek asylum and continue their careers in a country with better training facilities and opportunities. I mean, really? Though this claim remains unverified. All right, let's cross to Kent and speak to the research director at the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates. Rob, I mean, this is just becoming a bit of a joke, isn't it? People coming here for, say, an athletic purpose, then they think, do you know what? I might as well stay. I'm going to claim asylum because I can get better training here. Surely that is not a reason that will enable one to claim asylum.
Well, it is a joke, but I'm afraid to say that actually this is really an acute example of the bigger problem that the asylum system is actually facing, which is that the majority of claims aren't individuals who have come across on small boats. They are individuals who have got into Britain nominally for other purposes, whether that be to study or, in this instance, to do some form of work. And we do see individuals having chanced their arms, being given that visa, getting into the country and then launching these asylum claims on really, really spurious grounds. And this is part of the reason why we are seeing the asylum system creaking, costing us upwards of £5 billion every single year, a record number of asylum applications. And it is because we've effectively got an open door. Anybody that manages to get into Britain on whatever type of visa then has the right to launch these kind of appeals. And given how generous we seem to be at the moment, there's a very strong likelihood these individuals will have their status granted. And then, given their Commonwealth citizens, be able to vote in elections as well. And I think actually there's a time now, and there's a very strong argument that the asylum system is so out of control. We're seeing instances such as this, that it's time just for a complete moratorium on the asylum system for the foreseeable future. I think most people in the country would think we've been more than generous with what we've done thus far, the costs, the social implications, and now is a time just to get ourselves a bit of breathing space and introduce a moratorium.
There was a time when the idea of claiming asylum is that you come here because your country is in a very poor shape and, you know, your life is at risk. So you've come here, and the idea is that when it shapes up, we send you back there. You're not meant to just come here and stay forever. But it seems now any excuse will do. In fact, we can now know where you've come from, because these ones, we know where they've come from. Uganda, Pakistan, we know where they've come from. If their asylum claim fails, well, hey-ho, they'll probably end up staying anyway. Why are we just taking this? I don't really get it.
I think it's a system that now is just, at its core, rotting because of the human rights framework and an obsession with the Refugee Convention. Because, of course, you're absolutely right. Even if an individual does have their asylum application rejected, that by no means means that they are actually then removed from the country. And we do see thousands of individuals who have no legal right to be here, but we've simply thrown our hands up in the air and says, well, it might be a bit too uncomfortable in the court, so it might make us feel a bit too bad if we sent you back. Therefore, you know what, you can just stay. And I think it's absolutely abhorrent. I think it's a huge injustice to the British public that have now seen their borders torn apart, fraying at the seams, and the government saying, well, we're not going to do anything about it. We're going to prioritise the rights of foreign nationals over what actually is in the interests of this country. And it's a complete abomination. It's a complete inversion of what politicians should actually be doing. And as I say, I think the only way actually now to rectify this, because the asylum system is so riddled with problems and loopholes such as this, is just a complete freeze until we can figure out what the heck is going on.
Yeah, because I don't want to pay for it, to be honest. I'm paying a lot of tax here, and I just don't fancy it. This is not what the social contract that I signed with the government was meant to be paying my taxes towards. All right, Rob Bates, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. He's the Research Director at the Centre of Migration Control. Thank you. Well, joining me in London, let's start with the London panel. Former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove and GB News contributor Paul Cox. All right, let's start with you, Tom Pursglove, because you were a former Immigration Minister. I mean, I'm quite angry. I don't want to pay for these people. I mean, there's nothing going on in their country why they should be claiming asylum here. They just felt that they would, and they're saying that's what potentially they are saying. We don't know for sure, but they're saying that they'll get a better training opportunity in the UK.
And that of itself is the grounds for these cases to be completely dismissed. And what should happen is the asylum system should deal with these, expedite the processing of them, and get on and remove these individuals. And, you know, in the last few weeks, we've seen quite a debate play out about the grooming gangs perpetrators involving Pakistan, and the Pakistani government being very awkward about taking those individuals back. Well, this is an immediate test case, really, isn't it, for this Pakistani boxer to have his case dealt with by the Home Office, and for the Pakistanis then to be able to take him back. And there shouldn't be any barrier, because they were disputing in the grooming gang cases, weren't they, whether those individuals were Pakistani citizens and whether they should take them back or not. In this case, this individual has been representing Pakistan in recent days. That, to me, speaks volumes. And, you know, there is what we see in these big events, and it's a real shame, because the Commonwealth Games has been brilliant, something that we should be very proud of nationally, but there are dedicated work streams as part of the planning and the preparation that look specifically at these sorts of issues, the policing response to the Games, things like immigration risk. There is supposed to be an enhanced level of check that goes on, proper scrutiny of these applications for these athletes, and nationalities where there's a particular risk of asylum being claimed, we just shouldn't be letting them in the first place.
Paul Cox.
Well, look, it's not like there isn't a precedent for this. We just had the World Cup in the US a couple of weeks ago, and Donald Trump, specifically with Iran, kept them in Mexico and says you can only come in for an hour, play your game, you can go home again. And maybe that's what we have to do with nations that are likely to want to stay. And let's not kid ourselves here. Tom was an MP, and Tom was against this. But there are many MPs of those 650 in Parliament now that support this. They support this because it's a vote winner. So we know that there are loads of people in the UK, none of whom will be watching this tonight, I'm sure, unless they're doing it out of spite.
Well, a lot do, Paul. A lot tell me I'm not going to, your channel is this and it's just full of rubbish. And then I said, well, at the end I would say thanks for watching.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
They do, yeah, it's such a good point. They always get in touch. Thank you. But this is a vote winner, you know, keeping people in this country. And I don't understand
How is that a vote winner then? Who's voting for it? The British public?
No one in this room, obviously.
No.
But the fact that we've had government after government after government that hasn't been ousted as a result of this particular issue. If you look at the illegal immigration issue, it's been massive for 2 decades. Massive. If people didn't support it, then those governments would be out. Either that or they're so disengaged and they don't listen to people like us talking about it that they don't care.
I think perhaps because there were not people like us talking about it, and a lot of the establishment didn't talk about it at all, and now suddenly we are talking about it, and I think that's the difference. Let's bring in my panel in Washington, former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Niall, I'm going to have to start with you on this one. It just seems absurd. I don't really get why we are tolerating this at all. As soon as these people try and claim asylum, they should just be sent back. They don't need any legal anything. They came here to play a sport. They finished. They go back.
Yes, absolutely. I think that Britain's seen really as a soft touch, and this is absolutely ridiculous that you have these athletes claiming asylum in the United Kingdom. And I think that, it's illustration of how broken the entire asylum system is in the UK, but also internationally as well. And it's time that the UK just immediately, sent back individuals like this who are claiming asylum in Britain on purely false pretenses, I would have thought. It's an absolute disgrace. And we need to see a strong response by the Labour government. But I expect, of course, Labour under Andy Burnham are going to do absolutely nothing at all. And I expect these athletes are going to be able to stay and remain in the United Kingdom for a long time, thanks to the weakness and uselessness of the Labour government.
Ah, that's not fair on Andy Burnham. Growth in every postcode, hope in every heart. I'm sure hope will pay for all of that. Right, Laurie, what's your take on this?
Well, I think there's a lot of holes in the story, and I'm not... there's just so much information that we don't know, that I don't know even from reading the article before coming on the program tonight. Are we sure that that's what they plan to do? They're missing. Are we sure that they're safe? I understand your concerns, and we wouldn't allow people to stay here if they were on a specific travel visa either. To come play in the United States, they have to go back. I agree with all of that, but I just think from the story that I read, there's a lot of unknowns, and until these people make these official asylum claims or they come up not missing anymore, to assume or make a judgment that that's what we think that they're doing. And yes, from everyone I've been on this program with, all of you tell me that your immigration system is deeply broken.
Do you suspect that maybe they have been kidnapped?
I don't disbelieve you.
Do you suspect that maybe they've been kidnapped or something?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it wasn't clear in the article, so I'm not prepared to come on here and say they're,
they're trying to claim asylum. Well, there was a source who said that...
You guys deal with it, right? You guys deal with it and deny them if that's what the case is.
It's kind of sad, though, and I'm with you, we should do that, but that's not going to happen, is it, Tom? Tom, you've been behind all of this, not literally. I mean, you were you were in the Conservative Party doing a lot of this mess, I have to say. But, that's by the by. Now we've got to move on. We've got to fix it. If you could have your way of dealing with this and nobody in the way to stop you, what would you do?
Well, I would point out that the 80-odd% fall in visa numbers was the work that I put in place that ministers in this government take credit for, as well as the 190 asylum hotels that I closed, announcing the Rwanda partnership, and a whole suite of new laws that should help them to deal with these individuals. For example, the one-stop shop is designed specifically to make sure that we can get rid of individuals who are not eligible for asylum. We banned, by the way, illegal migrants from having asylum. This government has repealed that. But look, this is well-trodden path. We've seen with these big events in different parts of the world that you get athletes who go missing at the end of it and they claim asylum because they want to stay in the host country. In countries like the UK, in countries like France after the Olympic Games, in countries like the US, you find that some of these athletes from some of these countries around the world put these claims in, they want to stay. What should happen here is really simple. We've heard the sort of grounds that are being cited. They want to carry on their careers in great facilities with all the opportunities that being in the UK brings. That is not grounds for asylum. These people shouldn't have asylum. What should happen now is they should either, if they're here illegally because they've overstayed their visa, which they would in this particular case, they should be removed. And if they claim asylum, it should be done on an expedited basis and we should get on and remove them because they're just simply not grounds for asylum.
Yeah, all right, and if only we could do that quickly as well. No legal challenges or anything like that, because they shouldn't be allowed them, because usually it's either the taxpayer funding them or some NGO. A Commonwealth Games spokesperson said, as athletes and support staff leave the city, we continue to work closely with the wider partners, including police, Scotland, Border Force and UK visas and immigration, to ensure a safe and secure conclusion to the Games. Police Scotland spokesperson said Police Scotland has received reports of several athletes who are unaccounted for. Inquiries are ongoing to assess the circumstances and early engagement is taking place with the Home Office. And the Home Office has previously stated every asylum claim is considered on its individual merits and that anyone who does not need protection will have their claim refused, adding it would take action if made aware of any breaches of UK immigration law. Wow. All right, still to come in the Late Show Live.
This government is committed to halving knife crime within a decade, and progress has been made.
The government have just revealed that the number of knives and weapons handed in the amnesty bins in the past year, the numbers are nothing short of shocking. But also tonight. Just days after 70,000 migrants overwhelmed Spain's border, another mass crossing is already being planned. Those details next. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News. Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account. You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think this trade deal is a really dangerous Trojan horse for which we seem to be locking ourselves in America in Donald Trump's boot.
Oh, I can't wait to see how Ed Miliband gets on with the Trump administration. Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Britain's greenest cabinet minister, Ed Miliband, is burning the jet fuel as he meets the Trump administration today. Now, what could possibly go wrong? That is coming up shortly. But first, a GB News alert. Social media posts have revealed that African migrants are planning another invasion of Ceuta in Spain, warning that this could be their last chance to enter Europe on the 15th of August. And that follows fresh fears that convicted terrorists were among the wave of people who stormed the Spanish enclave last week. Reform's UK's Home Affairs spokesperson Zia Youssef previously spoke to GB News, where he issued this warning.
That's what 60,000 looked like arriving on a single day. That's why it's so striking. Britain needs to wake up. If we do not secure our borders, then we are going to see scenes like the ones that we have seen become, sadly, increasingly common.
Meanwhile, this was the response from Prime Minister Andy Burnham.
But it is a cause for concern, and we are making contact with the Spanish government, the Spanish authorities, to provide support, but also to understand the implications of that situation.
Yes, he also later on went to say how border crossings are down and blah, 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 blah. Right, with me now is the Director of the Border Security and Immigration Centre at the Heritage Foundation, Laura Rise. Laura, welcome. Is this something that we need to be concerned about? Some people feel that it's not really a worry.
Well, it absolutely needs to be a concern because it's been going on for years, not just in the UK, but throughout Europe. And what happened in Ceuta late last week was shocking to the world. It was bad optics. It was a lot of people all at once. But frankly, UK and other countries have been living with that, albeit in smaller numbers each day, each week, and suffering the consequences from it. The crime and the high taxes and the loss of sovereignty and the loss of what it means to be British.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it from where you are, and it's not great for us here. It's a little bit annoying, actually, that the government don't seem to have the appetite to do anything. And apparently this was organised, the first one was organised, I think, on one of the social media sites. I think it was Facebook, or partly on Facebook. And now they've allegedly got a WhatsApp group called Ceuta, just if anyone, I'm not saying if you want to join it, but it's public knowledge now, and apparently they're going to use the power of social media to try and do it again. It seems that nobody has the will to want to stop this at all.
Well, there's a lot of money behind this, and you mentioned in the last segment about the NGOs that are involved in facilitating mass migration, and we can be quite confident that that's what's happening with the Ceuta invasions as well. And so it's, if Spain really wants to stop this, they need to not only withdraw the amnesty offer, but secure their borders and return everybody. Spanish Prime Minister Sanchez claims that most have gone back. Other video defies that in terms of the numbers of mostly men, boys, still on the beaches and up in the hills. as well as some video of small boats coming to the Spanish mainland. But in video interviews, these migrants say they're not necessarily staying in Spain. They'll go to London, they'll go to other cities in Europe, and this mass migration will continue.
It's an invasion, although some people don't want to admit that that is what it is. Laura Rise, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. She's from the Heritage Foundation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's bring in my panel, former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove and GB News contributor Paul Cox. I'm going to come back to you, Tom, on this because Andy Burnham doesn't seem too bothered about it, although he's putting things in place. It sounds like he's doing something. I don't know what that is, but he's talking a little bit about it now. It took him 12 days to mention it since he became the Prime Minister. But they are still saying, when you speak to them, oh, the numbers are down from about 40% down and blah, 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 blah.
It's complacent nonsense, isn't it? I mean, look, where we're at is that we've got a government now that is not committed to stopping the boats lock, stock and barrel. This is a government that is only interested in reducing the numbers. It is breathtakingly complacent. It is completely and grossly unfair on the taxpayer in this country who have to accommodate these people, who are finding people turning up on our coastline undocumented, where you've got individuals wandering around in communities. This is not a sustainable position. And it's also a national security risk. When you look at hostile state actors and the weakness of the Channel situation and the potential that that offers to them, that is something that everybody should be hugely concerned about. Government should be taking a very robust line on it, and these are political choices. This is completely within the gift of this government to do more on in order to shut it down. I would argue the only way that you're going to do that is by detaining and removing every last individual. What we've seen in Ceuta is terrifying. The fact that this is perfectly repeatable, you could see this happening again with even greater numbers. You're beginning to see reports coming through of a number of these individuals who got there having to be transferred to the European mainland in order to be dealt with and processed. That, to me, is something that we should all be very concerned about, because if some of those people make it to, for example, the Spanish mainland, what's to say that they're not going to be turning up at the northern French beaches, trying to get on small boats, trying to get to the UK? And if you were a hostile state, you'd be looking at this and thinking this is a good route to try and get some of those individuals across to Britain in the end.
Well, you might do, although there was a shark spotted in the English Channel. I mean, perhaps that's the answer to stop people getting on the dinghies. Not that I don't want them to be eaten. What I'm saying is that if you knew that the waters were shark-infested, you'd probably avoid it. But, Paul?
But you'd be less likely to. Look, I look at this as sort of a perfect microcosm of what's been going on for ages now. But the reason I call it this microcosm is because absolutely everything's true. There's the propaganda's laid bare. So from the minute that the invasion took place, they deny it's an invasion. They start just talking about invasion as if it's a military action. It's not just a military action. It's just a large number of people going from one place that they are supposed to be to another place they're not supposed to be. An invasion. And when they get there, you play it down. You say, well, it's not that many. It's not that many. BBC were talking about a few hundred at one point when this first came up. There's quite clearly tens of thousands. You only have to look at it with your eyes. And then they rely on the fact that because they don't report this stuff, the people that they're constantly talking to, their audience, aren't engaged with it. So they just dismiss it. Because, of course, the BBC or ITV, they're not talking about it. So it can't be what it is. And then you look at Andy Burnham, and he plays it down because he knows the base that he's appealing to don't have an issue with this, because they're the same people that watch the BBC and ITV. And all of a sudden, you've got this microcosm of lies and propaganda which are propping up this whole disastrous affair. And if people don't start waking up, and I say this as someone now, I consider myself to be on the right of politics, and I wouldn't have done 20 years ago, that's for sure, but we have to start winning the hearts and minds of people. We have to start winning the hearts and minds of the normal, disengaged people out there, because this isn't just... Obviously, it's an adage to say it's going to become the UK's problem. But it's not just the UK's problem because they come through Europe. Because we're no longer part of Europe, they don't care for us, Europe, anymore. The language that the French use is the language of someone who is talking to someone who's not part of their union. They don't care if we have the problem. It's not in their union, so it's not their problem. We saw today with the fire on the boat that you can send them back. No problem. That was proven. And we've actually seen that the Spanish have been able to send these Moroccans back quite quickly. Now, we don't know how many, or if at all, actually, because of everything I've just said. There's this whole microcosm of propaganda going on, which is proving that they can get away with anything.
Well, I'm just going to push back on that. The BBC and ITV are full of lies and propaganda. They deny that and say that they are truth sayers telling the truth. All right, let's go to our Washington panel. Former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. OK, Laurie Watkins, you saw what happened. There was what many would term as an invasion. Would you call that an invasion?
Absolutely. If that happened anywhere, it would be an invasion. That was a scary situation, especially if you were anywhere near where that was happening and you happen to be a resident or you just happen to be there. It was like a flash mob.
Yeah. And what do you think the government's response? Do you think they had the right response to it? I mean, there's still some 20,000 people still there.
Yes, I think anyone who does not legally enter a country, including here in the United States, and I'm not talking about people that have been here 20 years, I'm talking about that try to do birther citizenship, those kinds of things, or this birther tourism, like what you're describing as well. Part of that is once you set foot somewhere, that's illegal, and you need to have comprehensive immigration reform, like we desperately need here in the United States, not just executive orders that last through presidencies that have very clear accountability, guardrails, legislation, etc. Penalties that come along with it if that's the case, legal penalties, financial penalties. But that's not what you guys have, right? You all agree here. We all agree sitting at this table that there needs to be much more done to your immigration laws there. But that was a very scary situation. I'm not going to sit here at all and defend that.
Yeah, because some people have tried to defend it, some members of the Labour Party, which I find quite interesting. Now, Gardner, what are your thoughts on what needs to happen and what the government needs to do now?
Well, absolutely. What we witnessed actually in Soweto was nothing short of an invasion. It's now an occupation with about 20,000 illegal migrants still there, despite the propaganda coming from Pedro Sanchez and his socialist government. There remain large numbers of illegal migrants on Spanish territory. Undoubtedly, I would expect there are many murderers, rapists, terrorists among those who are actually in Soweto right now. In terms of the British government's response with regard to the situation in the Channel, it has been, as expected, extraordinarily weak from Andy Burnham. I think we've seen a lot of common sense proposals coming from Nigel Farage and Reform over the last couple of days with regard to what needs to be done to secure the Channel against illegal migrants, and you need to use military force and military power to defend the Channel, to defend British sovereignty. Every single illegal migrant that tries to cross the Channel should be sent back to France. And if the treacherous French government under Emmanuel Macron refuses to accept that, well, they need to be forced to accept it. And I think the British people are tired of being knifed in the back by the French. The French are exporting their illegal migrants to the United Kingdom, and the Labour government is frankly doing nothing at all to stop this. Action needs to be taken, the Royal Navy needs to be deployed, and all measures should be on the table in terms of returning every single criminal illegal migrant back to France, because of course they are criminals trying to enter into the United Kingdom. Everyone who breaks British law entering the UK illegally is a criminal. They should be sent back to France and to the European Union where they belong.
Of course, the Labour government would say that numbers are down and that they are doing a lot of things to stop that, including the one in, one out, the migrant hokey-cokey, as some of us call it. They've also done many other things too. A lot of those things escape me at the moment. But they would say that the numbers are down, 40% down, in fact, and that their measures are working. All right, thank you very much. Right, let's take a look at some of the other main news headlines. Victims Minister Alex Davies-Jones has told BBC Newsnight that Prime Minister Andy Burnham is looking into the possibility of launching a public inquiry into the UK activities of paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. In America, Elon Musk has predicted that his Starlink system could deliver a majority of the world's internet within 10 years. Starlink, operated by SpaceX, is the satellite internet service that provides broadband connectivity using low Earth orbit satellites. Elsewhere, a man has been arrested on suspicion of arson in what were believed to be wildfires, which forced more than 60,000 people to evacuate from the city of Spokane in Washington state. And finally, former President Barack Hussein Obama is celebrating his 65th birthday today. In a post on social media, former First Lady Michelle said 65 never looked better. Every day you make me a better person, and I'm thankful for all of the ways you show up for our family and our country. Well, still to come on The Late Show Live.
I think we're going to have a very good relationship. We'll see. I'm not going to tell him how to run his country, but I can tell you, immigration is an incredible problem for Europe.
Well, the burn and bounce has fallen flat, with Reform UK back on top, but why? I'll reveal all soon, but first, tonight, the government's just revealed the number of knives and weapons handed into amnesty bins in the past year. The numbers are nothing short of shocking. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in tomorrow, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you came over and you got temporary protective status, and its name itself, it says temporary. That doesn't mean you can't go for a family visa.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Now, those comments from President Trump's Homeland Security Secretary have sparked outrage within the MAGA base. We'll get stuck into that shortly. But first, breaking tonight, zombie-style knives, kitchen knives and machetes are among more than 14,500 weapons dropped off in government-backed amnesty bins since July last year. Home Office figures also show that overall knife crime is down 11% since the poll in July 2024, with the number of knife-linked homicides falling by 26%. But are these figures still something the government should be shouting about? Well, with me now is former Metropolitan Police Detective Peter Blexley. Well, it all sounds like it's going in the right direction. It sounds very positive that knife crime is down. Do you trust those figures?
Well, let's just remember that the amount of knife crime offences was at such a sky-high number that any reduction is, of course, welcome. But those figures remain high. There is still much, much more to be done. Just the number of weapons handed into these amnesty bin shows you just how far and wide and difficult this issue is. Now, I do appreciate homicides with knives are down. We can, in part, thank the brilliance of doctors and surgeons and nurses and anaesthetists for that. But the police are, in some areas, doing targeted operations against particular areas that are blighted by knife crime violence. So I won't be churlish. I won't dismiss all of this. Yes, it would appear to be positive, but there is so much more work to be done.
What kind of person hands in a knife to one of these amnesty bins? Because, you know, it could be a knife that's been used in a crime that would, if found with that perpetrator, they are now, you know, the murder weapon or whatever the weapon has gone, so they're getting out of it. So what kind of person, what's the average sort of profile of somebody who might hand in a knife?
Well, that's very true. And of course, there are to be no consequences of anybody handing in these knives. That is part of the deal that is anonymously struck with anybody who wants to pop a knife into those bins. Now, of course, some people that will have put those knives in are simply too lazy to go down the local council recycling tip and will have wanted to have got rid of something from their kitchen. But, yet again, if amongst those thousands upon thousands of knives, there is a weapon that somebody who was going to go and use, but they had a second thought about it and they dropped it in their bin, they reassessed what they were going to do and their actions, and thereafter they didn't commit a crime with it, then of course that has to be a very welcome thing. Part of the problem with knife crime is that they are usually everyday items that can be found in every kitchen in the length and breadth of the country and often can be purchased quite easily. But it's a positive step. I think this initiative should run continually without any kind of break, and let's see what it yields in the future.
And the zombie knives, they're banned now, aren't they? The zombie knives and machetes, they are banned, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yes, the purchase, possession, retail of them have been banned by successive governments, of course, because it has been such a problem. Law enforcement needs to keep its initiatives going. I want to see more stop and search in targeted areas where knife crime is high, where we know that people are likely to be carrying a knife. That, of course, remains a thorny issue with so many politicians, particularly those left of centre. But stop and search, targeted, proactive operations against known people of violence, it has delivered results. Let's hope it continues to do so.
Well, let's hope it does. Peter Blexley, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much. He's the former Metropolitan Police Detective. Thank you. Right, well, still to come on The Late Show Live. A new report reveals another spike in anti-Semitism across Britain. Is enough being done to protect Jewish communities? But first tonight, Andy Burnham has lost the police as they threaten to take the Prime Minister to court over the early release scheme. We'll get stuck into that next. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live with me, Nana Akweer. Now, still ahead, a 12-foot shark forced swimmers out of the sea in the English Channel. One of America's top experts will reveal why they got out, because it might eat them. But first, let's delve into the main stories on the front of tomorrow's newspapers. Let's start with the front cover of The Sun, which is reporting that the Police Federation is poised to take legal action if the Prime Minister doesn't stop two of PC Andrew Harper's killers being released early. So with me now is my panel, former Conservative Minister Tom Purslove and GB News contributor Paul Cox in London. And in Washington, former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. All right, I'm going to start with you, Paul Cox, front cover of The Sun. The Prime Minister, there's an early release scheme that the Labour Party have put together. The Conservatives did something similar, but this is even earlier than that. And that would result in two of this beautiful PC Harper, lovely man, just married, his killers getting out early.
Yeah, as tragic as this story is, to some extent,
I'm pleased it's this story that's been able to use to highlight this issue, because had it not been this story and so high profile and so unjust, this might have just become the next political story that just becomes chip paper the next day. However, it won't do, because you kill a member of the police, you're killing the very people that are upholding the law on our behalf, irrespective of what you might think of the police. That's their role. All of a sudden, society starts to crumble if you allow that to happen. Well, society also starts to crumble if you convict someone of manslaughter, as these two lads were, for PC Harper's death, and then you let them out after what's likely to be 4 or 5 years.
It's terrible.
That they've no time to repent in that time. And by the way, these young lads were fist bumping and slapping each other on the back as they were escorted out of court. So we never saw any remorse. They've been in prison for a very short time, and this really, it does highlight the ludicrocy of this particular policy. I don't care if we've got a prison capacity issue. Keep these people in, and if they have to be uncomfortable, they have to be uncomfortable.
Now, Gardner.
Yeah, I think that this is absolutely outrageous. And what kind of government releases murderous thugs and killers from prison early? I mean, this is it's barbaric, actually. And the killers of PC Harper, I mean, they're real savages, aren't they? And what are they doing out back on the streets? And I have to say, this is an incredibly appalling, atrocious and disgraceful moment for Andy Burnham. As the new Prime Minister, he should have stood up and firmly rejected this early release, but he didn't. And this Labour government has no moral backbone or conscience. It's happy to release large numbers of criminals early from prison. It doesn't care about public safety at all. And this is what socialists do. I mean, they literally destroy countries. And Andy Burnham, I think, is just as bad as Keir Starmer, if not even worse in so many respects. And what a shockingly bad start for the new Prime Minister. More prisons need to be built, of course. And why are people, being locked up for their tweets while murderers are released from prison? It's absolutely outrageous. It's a damning indictment of the socialist regime in the United Kingdom today.
Well, some people might point out that the Tories were in for 14 years, Tom, and didn't build any prisons, which means that we don't have any more prisons, and, well, the prisons are all full.
So it's fair to say that successive governments have not invested enough in prison capacity, and this government is seeing through quite a significant increase in prison places that were commissioned under the last Conservative government. But this is completely the wrong decision. I mean, I just find this whole thing heartbreaking. One of the great privileges of my time when I was the Victims Minister was to spend a bit of time with Lizzie Harper and her family, and the pain and suffering that they have been through is just unimaginable, and it's just compounded by what we're seeing happen. And Parliament came together in passing Harper's Law, those mandatory life sentences for those responsible for killing emergency workers. And I would just ask the Prime Minister to think again on this, because the steps that are being taken with this early release policy are not in keeping with the spirit of what Parliament decided when we changed the law to be able to do that. And there are things that they can do by being more savvy about the places that we've got. They should get on and expedite the building of these prison places. If we have to have Nightingale prison places, we should do that, because these individuals should serve their sentences properly, as was envisaged when they were sentenced. We're letting people down by this situation coming to pass. I think it's choices that can be made that could see this situation put right. And don't forget, these are individuals who've shown absolutely no remorse for their actions, exactly as Paul described, that those sort of smiles on their faces, that jubilation that they have shown. They are completely despicable individuals. I think all of our thoughts should be with the Harper family at this exceptionally difficult time. But it's also about the message it sends to people who perhaps have, got aspirations of going into criminality, or just think twice before you go out and act in a particular way.
It's not a good sign, is it? Really, it's not a good signal.
All the wrong messages.
I would be tempted. I mean, I would be bringing back the death penalty, really, frankly, for police killers and things like that. And especially when you know they've done it, there's no ambiguity. But that would save a lot of money, I think, Laurie.
Well, I'm troubled about another headline or front page that I see, which is this, 9,300 domestic abusers set to be released. I mean, what is going on, you all? I'm serious. We're talking about murderers being released. We're talking about domestic abusers being released. And this sets a very concerning message to the citizens that if you do a crime, if you commit a wrong to another person, harm them, that we don't have the capacity to uphold the accountability that we're going to possibly impose in a court system. Because down the road, if we have no space, you get the boot.
Yeah, it does seem ridiculous, doesn't it, that they will let you out because we haven't got enough space. The most ridiculous excuse out there. All right, thank you so much. There's more coming up in the next hour, including why this now looks like a load of old cobblers.
I wouldn't get carried away by any poll. I'm pleased to have kind of made a start where hopefully I've connected with people.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to feel fresher for all of us today. Showers for many, especially towards the north and west. Thunderstorms for some, impactful thunderstorms with hail, lightning and torrential rain. Now, we've already seen some showers to start the day towards the north. We'll see showers pop up also across parts of Wales, western and northern England. Longer spells of rain for Northern Ireland, western Scotland, but the biggest storms are likely to develop through the afternoon for northeast Scotland with hail, thunder, 50 millimetres of rain accumulating in several hours. Dry, though, yet again through the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, although with a fresher feel. Temperatures back towards average, mid-20s with lower humidities. However, for much of Scotland, it's going to feel actually quite miserable in places. A lot of rain there through the north and west of Scotland, 13 Celsius, a strong breeze. Some brighter spells towards the east, but only in between these lively thunderstorms. A little drier to end the day for Northern Ireland, but for much of northern and western England as well as Wales, we've got these scattered showers. They'll be hit and miss. Some places will avoid them. Others will get a bit of a soaking, but they avoid, once again, East Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, staying dry as we end the day and go into the start of Thursday. Clear spells overnight. A bit more comfortable for sleeping, however, with those lower humidities, a fresh breeze coming from the northwest. Temperatures in the low teens rather than the high teens that we've seen during the last few nights. We start the day on Thursday with, again, significant contrasts across the UK. Dry, bright and warm in the south, but cloudy and cool with a strong breeze into the north and northeast. Showery rain coming south, breaking up through the day to give some drier and brighter weather. Certainly an improving picture for northern parts with some sunshine coming through. Staying dry once again in the south, however, with highs of 24 or 25 Celsius, much cooler towards the north.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you to our global community for watching and listening to GB News. We're not only the #1 news channel in Britain, we're chosen by you around the world. From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, we are live from London. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America. Now, Europe is under siege just days after 70,000 migrants overwhelmed Spain's border. Another mass crossing is already being planned. Can scenes like this be stopped? Burnham bounce falls flat. Labour's poll boosters disappeared, with Reform UK back on top. Is immigration to blame?
A Reform government, within a fortnight, there would be no more boats.
Britain's shame. A new report reveals another spike in anti-Semitism across Britain. Is enough being done to protect Jewish communities? And Air Miles Miliband, Britain's greenest cabinet minister, is burning the jet fuel as he meets the Trump administration today. But what could possibly go wrong?
I think this trade deal is a really dangerous Trojan horse for which we seem to be locking ourselves in America in Donald Trump's boot.
MAGA mutiny. Trump's immigration chief is under fire from the MAGA movement. Has the White House gone soft on deportations?
You came over and you got temporary protective status. In its name itself, it says temporary. That doesn't mean you can't go for a family visa.
And Jaws in Jersey. A 12-foot shark forced swimmers out of the sea in the English Channel. One of America's top experts will reveal why. I'm Nana Akwe, and this is The Late Show Live. So welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening in London, my panel, former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove and GB News contributor Paul Cox. And in Washington, former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Thank you for joining us tonight. Right, let's move on to our main news this evening. A new YouGov poll shows that Reform UK has regained its lead over Labour, suggesting the Burnham bounce has fallen flat. The new Prime Minister's popularity was credited with ending Reform's dominance in the polls last week, as the first voting intentions survey in 16 months saw Reform UK slip to second place. The new figures show Reform's very narrow lead over Labour at just 1 percentage point. So why has the Burnham bounce fallen so flat? All right, well, it could be because the public is still waiting to hear Andy Burnham's long-term plans for major issues, including immigration and the cost of living. I had a BMMC, a Burnham migrant mention clock, basically counting down how many days it took him to mention the migrants. 12 days, and that was only because of the invasion of theatre. Well, this is what the Health Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has said on the issue.
You've got Reform and Restore rowing over text messages, and we've got Reform trying to dodge questions about dodgy finances. Look, our focus is going to carry on being about how we improve law enforcement, how we strengthen our border security, to make sure that the number of small boats keeps coming down as it has done over the last year, but how we go much further, because frankly nobody should be making these dangerous crossings that undermine border security and put lives at risk.
Which is why we've put sharks in the channel. No, I'm joking, they haven't. There was a shark spotted in the channel, but maybe that's because perhaps there's more food source or something. No, seriously, that's what happens with these animals or mammals. All right, well, joining me in London, my panel, former Conservative Minister Tom Purslove and GB News contributor Paul Cox. Did you feel that Yvette Cooper inspired you with confidence that this government have a handle on the situation?
No, I didn't. She's never... She always looks like she's just woken up from a nap. Next time you watch her, Yvette Cooper always looked like she's just woken up from that, and I love a nap, so I'm not saying anything against the nap. But no, I noticed there's a slight change in language, slightly sterner, slightly more serious about the issue. It's very dangerous. They're brokering our borders, etc. This is the sort of language that wouldn't have been said by a Labour MP when the Conservatives were in government, and it probably wouldn't have been said in their campaign up in 2024. But now they're in power and they're trying to make people think that they are genuine about this problem. They're starting to use slightly harsher language. Of course, it's all nugatory because the language they're using is not strong enough. They're not going to deal with the problem. They have no interest in dealing with the problem. We know that because they haven't dealt with the problem. The only people that seem to be talking a very strong game on it are Reform, and they just come out yesterday talking about Fortress Britain. The Tories have started to talk much stronger about it, which is good to see. But nobody has really started yet to do anything in earnest, which makes me think anyone is taking it seriously.
I noticed that she's shaking her head a lot while she's talking, and also that she started talking about Reform, which, to be honest, they've only got, 8 MPs? In fact, no, 7 now, because Nigel has sort of stepped back and, there's all the by-election business going on. But why do they always have to sort of start dissing Reform when, actually, if they just focused on getting the job done, they might actually do something, which they could do, because they've got a massive majority?
Well, it's always quite revealing of the psyche of the governing party when you hear those sorts of comments. They've clearly got Reform in particular on the brain. And what we've got is a Prime Minister who's just come to office, who's gone off on holiday a fortnight into the job, which I just find extraordinary because these are foundational weeks for the government. You've wanted this job. Of course, everybody's entitled to a holiday, but to take one within a fortnight, I do find rather surprising, and you'd be wanting to get up to speed as well as to try and make a real impact. But I suppose the Chancellor's probably quite pleased that at least there's a bit of a break there on the spending spree that the Prime Minister's been going on. £95 billion worth of uncosted spending, which certainly hadn't been accounted for previously, and we're all going to end up paying for when the time comes. That's what this government's going to be held to account for when the election comes, whenever that is. I do think that the Prime Minister's trying to keep his options open so that if he gets ahead in the polls, he could call an election much sooner than was envisaged. And when it comes to immigration, I watched him this week talking utter nonsense about small boats. You mentioned, Nana, quite rightly, how long it took him to mention the issue in the first place. But then when he started talking about it, he was talking about the fact that they were doing so wonderfully well because crossing numbers are down. But that just really reveals the fact that this government's policy is not to stop the problem altogether, it's just to reduce the numbers. And then he was talking about having safe routes for people. Well, if you want to make this even worse, the best thing you could do is to have a magnet to encourage more people to make those journeys to France, then in the hope and expectation that they might be able to come across on a legal route. And of course, what we know happens is that if they then fail to get on the legal route, they just come illegally anyway. Disastrous choice.
Such a good point, Tom. And I urge anyone to go back and listen to that particular interview you're talking about. Andy Burnham essentially crammed in all the things he thought people should want to hear. On all sides of the argument, we're doing this, and then he went on to the safe and legal routes thing, which completely contradicted, like a simultaneous equation. One side completely cancelled out the other. The problem wasn't solved, but he was giving red meat to every side. And I fear with Andy Burnham, we're going to get even worse than we got with Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer had no political backbone and no ideology. The only thing we know so far that Burnham's interested in is buses.
All right, well, he did talk about migration eventually. Let's take a listen to what he actually said.
The number of crossings is down by 50% this year compared with the same period in 2025. And the month we've just had, July, has been the lowest number for 6 years of people crossing. So clearly progress is being made, but we're not complacent. People want to see this issue addressed. I heard that on the doorsteps in Makerfield. But we also need to build a system that offers safe routes for people as well, because that also takes away the selling point of the gangs.
Yeah, you see, there he is. He's talking about safe and legal routes as well. And I don't know, I just get bored of hearing how the numbers have gone down and with comparing it to this time last year, because on those few days where he did eventually speak, there was a mega dinghy which had 165 people on it and 200 people in total came across. And then the following day, I think there were 1,000. So, do you know what I mean? It'll cancel itself out quite quickly. Let's speak to political strategist Joseph Robertson and political commentator Matthew Stadlen. Matthew Stadlen, your thoughts?
So much to talk about. I'll try and keep it brief. Firstly, good to see you, Nana. Good to see everyone. Tom knows exactly how difficult this issue is, of course, because he was a Conservative minister for legal migration and the border. And if this had been a straightforward thing to fix, then Rishi Sunak would have fixed it when he effectively told us he was going to stop the boats. Yesterday's policy announcement by Nigel Farage and Zia Youssef was one of the stupidest policy announcements I've ever heard from a party that is 1 or 2 in the polls, and we can come to the polls a bit later. The idea that we are going to land British Navy vessels at French ports under a reform government without the consent of the French is just fantasy politics, and anyone with a brain can work that out.
Why? I've got a brain. I don't understand why it's fantasy politics. That is what happened with Spain. They dropped the migrants back in Morocco. I know you're going to laugh and say they've got an agreement with them, but we have agreements with France to stop the migrants from coming across. But they are almost as helpful as the Moroccans, helping the Moroccans and North Africans to get across to Ceuta.
Without an agreement with the French, and the French yesterday said it would be an infringement of the law and of their sovereignty, so they made it quite clear that they wouldn't put up with it. Without an agreement with the French, we would have to go to war with France to do that, Nana, and that is not going to happen under a Nigel Farage prime ministership, however unlikely it is that he's going to be prime minister.
That's not going to happen, Matthew.
We're not going to. I can tell you now.
We're not going to go to war with France if we return people who've broken into our country via the dinghies.
Under a reform government, I'll come back on your show, Nana, and you can tell me that I was completely wrong.
I will tell you you're completely wrong. He's just getting another shift in. Very clever. I see what you've done there. Joseph, your thoughts?
Well, look, I mean, yeah, it's an important point in cooperation with the French. I think that's exactly why Jordan Bardella will be appearing at Reform's conference later this year. And of course, what we do have to do is think about this holistically. We've seen what's happening in Spain right now. We know that that can happen across the rest of Europe. And it's time for the grown-ups to be back in the room and stop this kind of diatribe from the left, this miserable drip feed of we can't do anything because laws say we can't. And actually get back to common sense, which I think is what Reform's trying to achieve and why we're seeing such popularity for them in the polls, because they actually know that it's time to do something rather than sit around with the same kind of platitudes, sneering at the people who want change.
Yeah, but it's easy to stand on the sidelines. Sorry, I'll just say, it's easy to stand on the sidelines when you're not in the main sort of headlights in opposition and say things. That's exactly what the Labour Party did, and then when the reality came, it was a lot more difficult. Won't Reform have the same problem?
Well, of course, because there will be elements, as there always are, of the civil service that are far to the left of anything that the government tries to achieve. And what Reform needs to do is look at this as one big picture. You know, you can't achieve any kind of change if you're not going to look at the mechanics that have been stopping that change from happening. So I think huge cuts in the way the civil service functions, and we saw that with the Rwanda plan. We've seen that with different attempts to try and actually change things on the front of immigration. And it is hard to do because you have a system that is geared to work against you. You have monopolies in the form of, big corporate entities like Serco, who manage the logistics route right the way around from the hotels all the way through to border force. So, there are a lot of things that can't a lot of corruption to get rid of. But I think it's achievable. I think one big part of that is to have great international cooperation right from the off, to start planning as though you are preparing for the government rather than just rolling out the same talking points each time. And so I think that encouragement of having Bardella on side, having a caucus from France saying, yeah, we agree with you, you need to be able to take back your sovereignty rather than this kind of ring around the roses that always seems to happen with every new government that's formed, is an important part of that.
Go on, Matthew.
Well, Marine Le Pen is going to be the person who's going to try to become French president from Front National, so she's the key figure there. I very, very, very much doubt she is going to say to the French people that they will have Royal Navy ships landing at French ports returning migrants. Now, there is a contradiction in the behaviour of the French, because they are actually making some inroads. As Andy Burnham correctly said, crossings are down 50% this time compared to this time last year. And yet the French could, I think, stop this overnight if they did say, we will take everybody back. The fact that they don't do that is reflective of their own politics, their own domestic politics, which tells me there is no way they're going to accept Royal Navy ships docking on their ports. Reform are in a real pickle. You cited this poll where they're 1 point ahead of Labour, but actually last week, on that YouGov poll, they were level with Labour. Labour were not ahead of them on that YouGov poll. There were one or two polls, different polling companies last week, that actually had Labour in front. And then today, very awkwardly for Reform, because Zia Youssef was boasting about this YouGov poll, there's another poll by JL Partners that has Labour on 27% and Reform on 25%. So Labour actually have a 2% lead. That's not significant. And of course, there's all to play for, whether there's a snap election or whether we wait for 2 or 3 years. But the key message here is that Reform are on the slide. Why are they on their slide? I think for a couple of reasons. One is that they're on to the right of them, Restore Britain, a vile party in my view, headed by Rupert Lowe, is shaving off some of their support and undermining the confidence of some on the harder right in Reform. And also they've got their obvious problems that we all know about. And Burnham has come in, he's been positive, he's come up with this flurry of initiatives, this flurry of announcements, and he's probably winning back some voters from the Greens and the Lib Dems. And if he's able actually to deliver, as well as be far better at comms than Keir Starmer, which is obviously the case, then he could start to build a significant lead in the coming months.
Potentially, but he needs to address the issue of illegal migration, and he needs to address it seriously. And right now, him saying that, oh, well, the numbers are down from last year is not really going to cut it, because frankly, we all know it's the weather, and also there's a shark now. So, joking. All right, Matthew Stadlen and also Jason Robertson, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you both. All right, let's bring in my panel in Washington. Former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. OK. Niall, it seems we're back still in the same place. Nothing's happened with these crossings. I'm not being funny, but I think perhaps the shark is the only way forward. Not to be horrible, because I don't want people to be eaten. I just don't want people to get in the boats in the first place. And they wouldn't if the waters were shark infested.
I have to say, it's always amusing to listen to Matthew Stadlen, because he speaks such utter nonsense. And his attack on Nigel Farage and Zia Youssef, saying that their statements on dealing with the channel migration crisis are stupid and so on. This is the typical response from the left. The vast majority of polls in the UK show actually that Reform are ahead of Labour. There's been 1 or 2 polls that have shown Labour with a slight lead. If you combine the Reform and Conservative vote, it's about 20 percentage points ahead of Labour. I mean, Labour are at an astonishingly low level for a governing party in the United Kingdom. Labour are in real trouble. The vast majority of British people do not want socialism, and Andy Burnham, of course, is, he's had a bit of a honeymoon period, but he's starting to sink in the polls with good reason, because the more the British people hear from Andy Burnham, the less they like him, I think, because he doesn't exactly come across as a very charismatic figure. In fact, he's even more boring and dull than Keir Starmer, which is an incredible achievement if you think about it, actually. And Andy Burnham doesn't have any solutions whatsoever to the migration crisis. In fact, he barely talks about mass migration and the threat it poses to the United Kingdom. And so all of this talk from Matthew and from other sort of Labour apparatchiks that, oh, Labour are storming back in the polls, just complete and utter nonsense. And it's evident to anyone who actually looks at the polls themselves. Labour are in serious trouble, and Andy Burnham has no democratic mandate whatsoever. Who put him in power? Who voted for Andy Burnham to be Prime Minister? It's laughable, frankly, all of this talk from the Labour camp that somehow they are fighting back and storming the beaches again and so on. It's absolutely ludicrous, and it's ridiculous, frankly.
Well, I've got to push back on him being worse than Keir Starmer. Nobody was worse than Keir Starmer. Andy Burnham has a level of charisma that is very attractive, and I can see why people would vote for him. I even like what he's saying on some things, but what irritates me is that it took him so long to mention illegal migration, and he only did it because he had to after the invasion of Ceuta. So I'm wondering, as you watch this, Laurie, do you think that Reform UK, and you may not know much about them, but I'm sure obviously you probably do look at some of British politics, that they have a good chance actually against Labour, even with Andy Burnham in charge?
It's going to be interesting to see. Just in the, what has it been, only 2 weeks since he's been the Prime Minister? It seems that people have already taken a turn against him in a major way. So I wish him luck. He came out swinging. What was it we talked about? Something about the kids, the taxes, the health benefits that they were getting, saying that they were sick from COVID. You all know what I'm talking about, and people were very happy about that he was addressing that's something that they didn't think the Labour Party would. I think that he'll come out with some beneficial things, but if you don't address immigration with what is happening around the world, and I say that here in the United States, I've been saying as a Democratic strategist, when the Democrats hold the majority here in the House in the United States, my recommendation, the first thing that they should do not go after any investigations and impeachments and this and that after Donald Trump or whomever. The first thing that you should do is present a comprehensive immigration plan.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's interesting.
Get it done.
And it's interesting that Andy Burnham took so long to even mention it, that a lot of people were not happy, and even the Liberals who are, quite okay with a bit of illegal immigration were not okay when they saw what happened in Ceuta. Okay, well, I've got to move on because, but the Clacton by-election will take place on the 13th of August following the resignation of Reform MPs Nigel Farage. The candidates are
Adam Al-Khatib, the Forward Party; William Stewart James Colston, Social Democratic Party; James Ransley, Consensus Party; Kai Stevens, the British Democrats; John Stevens, Rejoin EU; Nigel Farage, Reform UK; Lawrence Fox, the Reclaim Party; Martin Davies, Freedom Alliance, Real People, Real Alternative; Count Binface Party; Ketan Kumar Pipalia, UK Voice, Safer and Stronger UK; Marcus White, Everyone is God Party; Standing as independent candidates are Rhys Cowan, Andy Earlham, Glenn Charles Cummings, Ati Fard, Tony Francis, Robin Green, Abby Hookwe, Stephen Richard Ingram, Amy Morris, Derek Norbert Morris, Michael Noel O'Keefe, Martin O'Brien, Nick Pellas, Daniel Pocock, Jerry Smith, Pamela Walford, Joseph 77, Tony Kane, Woke Trump Kazi, Mark Wilkinson. Standing for the official Monster Raving Loony Party is Baron von Thunderclap, Howling Lord Hope, Nick the Incredible Flying Brick.
30.
Wow, so a lot going on there, but still to come on The Late Show Live.
If you came over and you got temporary protected status, in its name itself it says temporary. That doesn't mean you can't go for a family visa.
Those comments from President Trump's Homeland Security Secretary have sparked outrage within the MAGA base. But also tonight,
I think this trade deal is a really dangerous Trojan horse for which we seem to be locking ourselves in America in Donald Trump's boot.
oh dear. Oh well, Britain's greenest cabinet minister is burning the jet fuel as he meets President Donald Trump and his administration today. I can't wait to watch. But what could possibly go wrong? This is The Late Show Live only on GB News. But first, it's been revealed that anti-Semitism in the UK has spiked in the immediate aftermath of the US and Israel launching their war on Iran. Data from the Community Security Trust, the CST, showed that there were 1,926 anti-Semitic incidents which were recorded across the UK between January and July 2026, up more than 300 from the same period last year. Now, the first few months of this year saw a series of arson attacks at Jewish sites across London, as well as a double stabbing in Golders Green on the 29th of April. The CST recorded a total of 71 incidents in the 3 days following the stabbings, saying that several of them celebrated the violence and called for further injuries to Jewish people, or they used the incident to promote anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and anti-Jewish abuse. Well, with me now is Michael Rowe from the Young National Jewish Assembly. Michael, thank you very much for joining me. So just how bad has it become?
Good morning, Nana. Good to see you. We have seen from this report now that extremism is now embedded in our society and that anti-Semitism is now, unfortunately, commonplace within modern Britain. And that's something that should deeply worry every citizen of the United Kingdom. And it's something which has to now be tackled head on. We've got a new government. We need to see a new strategy. Unfortunately, we're seeing more of the same. We are not seeing this being properly tackled, and we're not seeing proper measures being implemented to really deal with anti-Semitism. It's disgraceful that this report is now showing there was a 71% rise in anti-Semitism just following the joint American and Israeli initial attacks on Iran earlier this year. Let's remember, those attacks against Iran, Iran is a state, well, the regime of Iran, the IRGC, is a terrorist regime. It suppresses its own people. It is one which is fighting against Western values and which every citizen of the UK should stand up against. That should not lead to a rise in anti-Semitism. And what we're seeing constantly is that Jews are blamed for the actions of other states and of based on international affairs. It's totally anti-Semitic. It's totally disgraceful, and it's something which needs to be tackled. I think it's just worth mentioning that the government just a few weeks ago said initially they were going to fully prescribe the IRGC, the Iranian regime, this terrorist regime. They couldn't even do that. All they did, they designated it. They didn't even fully prescribe it. We need to be able to really understand the problem if we are to tackle the problem. And that starts with treating the IRGC and the Iranian regime as the terrorists which they are. The next step is to tackle further extremism, to ban the Muslim Brotherhood, which has its influence, unfortunately, across Britain, and to really start to tackle extremism, which we are seeing in modern Britain today.
Well, the government have said that they would spend $250 million with a funding commitment over 3 years to invest in security for Jewish people. Is that not a start, even though it's reactive rather than proactive? So it's not really attacking the root cause, but it is trying to deal with what is happening, so dealing with the symptoms rather than actually dealing with the actual reason at the heart of it.
Yes, of course, the extra funding is welcomed by the Jewish community, and we thank the government for their support and for their support of the Community Security Trust of the CST, who do such amazing work. But as you quite rightly say, the way to tackle the issue of anti-Semitism and extremism is not by putting up greater walls. The way to tackle it is to deal with the root cause of the problem. We can only do that if we treat it as what it really is, which is extremism, anti-Jewish racism, which is goes against the values of modern Britain. But also we have to start learning that it is systematic across the country. So whether it be in the education system, whether it be in the police forces, whether it be in the NHS, and there are many other institutions where unfortunately anti-Semitism is seen today, we have to start learning that it's so widespread and that we have to tackle it at the root cause. You know, extra CST spending on CCTV, on security gates, on security guards is welcome, but it shouldn't be needed in our modern British society. And it's a stain on modern Britain that unfortunately we're still seeing this increase in anti-Jewish racism.
Shocked at how Jewish communities need to protect themselves. I had no idea, really, the levels of security measures that the Jewish people have to go through. And I think it is astonishing that only now we are finally doing something or acknowledging it. And I'm glad we're acknowledging it. But I do agree the government needs to kind of look at the root cause and deal with some of those groups that you mentioned. Michael Rowe, thank you very much. He's from the Young National Jewish Assembly. Really good to talk to you this evening. All right, well, joining me in London, my panel, former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove and GB News contributor Paul Cox. I'm going to go to you, Tom Pursglove. Security. Jewish people, it's been going on for decades. They have had to protect themselves like this. It's not anything new.
Well, it's appalling, isn't it? Yeah. And I often find myself asking, where are the anti-racism campaigners when it comes to calling this out? Because there's a duty and a responsibility for all of us without qualification, and it upsets me when you see qualified condemnation of, the word "but" creeps in. It's terrible, but. And this deliberate equating of, Jewish people and the state of Israel and everything that flows from that. And I find it absolutely disgraceful. Yeah. And I think the fact that those communities have the need to put that security on in the first place is something that should shame us all. And you have to have a root and branch response to this. You have to call it out. I think where you've got, for example, foreign nationals in this country who engage in this sort of behaviour, they shouldn't be here. We should remove them. If you're, going around acting in a hateful, anti-Semitic way, that is not compatible with our values as a country.
Careful, Tom. We can't remove people. Nobody, even if we know where they've come from, it's almost impossible. We can't send people back who are clearly have failed asylum. We can't send anyone back to anywhere. There's no will. There's no. Even the Crown Prosecution Service is, buckling. Nothing is really working.
But we should be changing our laws. We should be, dealing with the ECHR, striking up those returns agreements.
Listen, dealing with the ECHR would take us at least 20 years. Paul Cox.
Or one proper government, 20 weeks.
Or 10 days,
There's three indisputable facts that have been bestowed upon Britain in the last 10 to 20 years. The biggest threat to our security is from Islamist terrorism. The fastest growing form of discrimination is against Jewish people. And the people that dislike Jewish people the most appear to be far-left ideologues in support of Palestine and Gaza and Islamists. And those two have come together under political parties, legitimate political parties in the UK, namely the Green Party. And if you put all three of those together, it's no surprise to see these statistics.
Well, I wouldn't say that the Green Party supports Islamists. That's not...
I'll tell you what they would do then, Nana.
That would be
I'm happy for the pushback,
extreme.
of course. But what I would say is they'd be happy to turn a blind eye.
Again, I wouldn't say that they would. I mean, I'm not a member of the Green Party, but again, it's sort of, putting them next to Islamists. I don't really think that's the case, although they do support Gaza and Palestine, and they do support all of that.
And that's the fertilisation bed for all of these problems.
But that doesn't make them Islamists, though. There's many people who support Palestine and Gaza.
I think we should also, though, have a very tough line in our society that where we see incitement in these marches, for example, those marches should be banned. And we should also see exemplary sentences handed down to send a very clear message that we're not going to tolerate this. And what's been interesting is we've seen some of the swift justice measures where people have been put through the courts very quickly when certain behaviours have been exhibited. I think these are exactly the sorts of things. It's totally incompatible with our values. This sorts of behaviour should be subject to swift justice.
I mean,
people should feel the full force of the law.
Look how quickly they dealt with Lucy Connolly. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. But everything else, they seem to be dragging their heels. Let's bring in on my panel in Washington, former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Right, Niall Gardner, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that anti-Semitism is it's a tremendous evil that is sweeping across the United Kingdom today. It's a growing problem. And there needs to be far more, I think, aggressive action taken against it. And also, the reality is that any foreign individual in the United Kingdom who is involved in anti-Semitic activity and making threats against Jews or involved in violence against Jews should be deported and thrown out of the United Kingdom. It's as simple as that. I do think that the Labour government in particular has been extremely weak in the face of anti-Semitism. And Jewish people are increasingly targeted across the UK. And the level of menace and threat towards Jews, overwhelmingly, it has to be said, from Islamist individuals, the level of threat has risen dramatically in the last couple of years or so. And the Labour government has consistently, I think, failed to combat the rise of anti-Semitism. It is a real poison in British society. It's also on the rise as well in the United States and across all over Europe. And real action needs to be taken against those who advance it, propagate it, and implement it. And that includes, I think, deportation of those Islamists who are threatening British Jews. So action needs to be firmly taken. And so far, I haven't really heard anything of significance from Andy Burnham on this issue. He needs to speak out.
He's talked about Gaza, actually. There's a little clip, I mean, I don't know whether we can find it, but he talked about Gaza, said that we were wrong about Gaza, and then pushed for his support of Gaza. So, he has spoken about it before he became the Prime Minister, when he was, I think, around the time he was leader of the Labour Party. There's only a few days in it, but he did talk about Gaza. Laurie, I'm looking, and I realise that in the US, the IRGC are prescribed as a terrorist organisation, but yet the UK still have yet to do that. Isn't that right? We haven't done it yet, have we?
No, we talked about this on this network last week or the week before that I was calling. I don't know why the Brits were not going to do that. You have to designate them as a terrorist organization for many different reasons. That could come with financial sanctions, the way that the entire international community looks at them, whether or not they would be able to do any financial transactions, moving of money, purchasing of certain kinds of assets, military assets, equipment, etc. So I don't see why you wouldn't. You guys are not even part of... I could see if you guys are part of the negotiation and you guys, were part of the team along with the United States and Israel that have been negotiating or coming to Donald Trump's side when he's calling for allies who are staunchly refusing. I could see that they don't want to get themselves caught in the crosshairs because they're part of that, but y'all are not. So I don't know why they don't.
See, this is the problem.
As well.
See, this is the problem. I don't get it. I don't get why our government have literally said very little. They've sort of half supported Israel, but then they haven't. And then they've been very sort of lackluster when it's come, you know, when it's with the war and everything else like that. And there's been a very strong far-left movement. We've had pro-Palestine protests every week, which meant that Jewish people were afraid to go out. And I don't get why that wasn't taken more seriously, Paul. Do you know what I mean? I look at that and think, yeah, why?
I'm sorry to say I think I do know the answer to this, and it's that the UK has become, and lots of the anglicised Western world has become a petri dish for anti-Semitism, and anti-Semites tend to vote left. In modern Britain, they tend to vote Labour. Labour haven't got rid of their anti-Semitic problem, they've just parked it in the dark. They've just parked it over there, and some of those people have gone elsewhere. But that is exactly why we find ourselves where we are, because people are refusing to deal with it. And the reason they're refusing to deal with it is that those people would happily vote for them.
Well, Labour argue that they did get rid of their anti-Semitism problem, and Keir Starmer apparently did a good job in it. But now Andy Burnham's back. He's brought back in Diane Abbott, who, well, she was suspended from the party for comments that many thought were anti-Semitic.
Well, I agree, and I was aghast to see Andy Burnham rowing back on some of the work that Keir Starmer had done to tackle anti-Semitism. And one of those things that he did do was to try and say what was going on in London was not good, is bad. And, you know, we've said this with regards to a whole bunch of things across the world. Look, the world, whether we like it or not, is split into 2 or 3 groups. OK, you are either on the side of the US, and they are either our allies, or you're not, and you're on the side of Iran and Russia. It's up to you. I know where I want to be.
Well, let's play what Andy Burnham said on Gaza before he was Prime Minister. Have a listen.
The ongoing genocide, I think, in Gaza, and what's happening in Lebanon as well. What's your thoughts on how you're going to cope with that, and how you're going to deal with that situation?
Well, I did address Gaza directly last week, and I recognised that Labour got it wrong. I mean, obviously, the attacks of October the 7th were horrendous. But at the same time, I looked then at what happened in the aftermath and has carried on happening. And it's possible to criticise both things rather than just pick a side.
Now that was Andy Burnham speaking to Gary Lineker, of all people, on his podcast. Just to put that into context, Gary Lineker was ultimately sacked from the BBC for retweeting something that had a anti-Semitic trope on it. So it had a rat on, and he retweeted it, and he liked it and retweeted it. But basically, it would appear that he said he didn't realise, he didn't see the trope and everything else like that. But of all the people, of all the podcasts, you know, it's just, you know, what do you think anyway? All right, well, listen, what do you think? Any thoughts on that at all? Niall?
Yeah, well, I think Burnham's interview with Gary Lineker, who fancies himself some sort of foreign policy expert, that was a very dangerous interview that Burnham gave. He basically equated the horrific October 7th attacks actually with the response by the Israeli government. There's no comparison here between what Hamas did to thousands of Israelis and the legitimate response of the Israeli government to eliminate Hamas terrorists. And it's absolutely disgusting comments by Andy Burnham. This man has no moral compass whatsoever, and he's equating the Israeli government actually with Hamas, the most brutal and barbaric, evil terrorist organisation of our time. This is the level of Burnham's approach towards foreign policy. And then, of course, you've got, you know, the likes of Gary Lineker interviewing Burnham, but that was a train wreck interview by Burnham. It sends completely the wrong message, and Burnham is not serious at all about combating anti-Semitism. It's very clear, I think, from that absolutely atrocious and appalling interview that he gave to Lineker.
I'm sure he would say that he is actually wanting to combat anti-Semitism, and that, you know, I suspect that where he's coming from is a compassion for the many people who are dying in Gaza as a result of the war. But that just still shouldn't minimise what happened on October the 7th at all. All right, well, Police and Crime Minister Sarah Jones said that we are investing a record $250 million to boost policing in Jewish neighbourhoods. I'm also proud to work hand in hand with the CST to protect synagogues, Jewish schools and community centres. We must never stop fighting to rid society of this evil. All right, let's take a quick look at some of the other main news headlines. Victims Minister Alex Davies-Jones has told BBC Newsnight that Prime Minister Andy Burnham is looking into the possibility of launching a public inquiry into the UK activities of paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. In America, Elon Musk has predicted that his Starlink system could deliver a majority of the world's internet within 10 years. Starlink, operated by SpaceX, is a satellite internet service that provides broadband connectivity using low Earth orbit satellites. Elsewhere, a man has been arrested on suspicion of arson in what were believed to be wildfires, which forced more than 60,000 people to evacuate from the city of Spokane in Washington state. And finally, former President Barack Hussein Obama is celebrating his 65th birthday today. In a post on social media, former First Lady Michelle said, "Every day you make me a better person, and I'm thankful for all the ways you show up for our family and our country." So still ahead on The Late Show Live.
The climate debate and the environmental debate was getting very negative, very doom and gloom, and I wanted to inspire that hope and optimism.
Oscar-winning actress Kate Blanchett has hailed Prince William as an extraordinary climate leader. Is that really the role for a future monarch? But also tonight.
I think this trade deal is a really dangerous Trojan horse for which we seem to be locking ourselves in America in Donald Trump's boot.
I think he should get on the back of that Trojan horse and literally ride off into the sunset. But the Green agenda is about to collide with America First. Britain's greenest cabinet minister, Ed Miliband, is in Washington today. What could possibly go wrong? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories. And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in tomorrow, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So welcome back to The Late Show Live. Ed Miliband, I was looking forward to this. He's set to meet Marco Rubio today after the White House previously raised concerns over his appointment as Foreign Secretary. Mr. Miliband's position on many issues has been in stark contrast to President Donald Trump's, particularly his opposition to oil and gas drilling in the North Sea. It's this stance that has earned him a nickname in Washington, Ed Milliwatt, a joke about the power generated by the Labour politicians' net zero policies. Very good. The Foreign Secretary, could also face backlash over his past comments about the president. Let's take a quick trip down memory lane.
It's very worrying for the world, Donald Trump's victory, and it is a political earthquake.
A political earthquake? Still, everyone says things in the heart of the moment. Surely it gets better.
I think this trade deal is a really dangerous Trojan horse for which we seem to be locking ourselves in America in Donald Trump's boot.
Donald Trump's boot? Good. Always a solid foundation for a special relationship.
Most importantly, his values, his racism, his misogyny, his respect for authoritarian regimes and his apparent contempt for democratic regimes. And I think it is important to take a stand on this, because I do think that his values and where he stands are on the side of, they seem to be on the side of authoritarianism.
Right, so now we've got racist, misogynist and authoritarian, and then he took it to the streets.
It's about an objection to the President of the United States and his values, his racism, his misogyny, his embrace of dictatorship, his contempt for democracy. And it's incredibly important that this behaviour isn't normalised, and that's why people are marching today.
Hey! Ho! Ho! Donald Trump has got to go! Said hey! Say it loud!
thought that, that's just all ancient history. Apparently not.
It's been revealed that Ed Miliband led a cabinet revolt against President Trump's war in Iran.
Yes, it's understood that the Energy Secretary, Rachel Reeves, and Yvette Cooper, in a meeting on Friday, strongly opposed British support for preemptive military action, which they believed would be illegal.
Again, not exactly screaming, can't wait to work together.
The point with the president is he has his own style. We're not going to sort of, trade views on this. I'm not sure he's that interested in my views anyway.
No, Ed, he probably wasn't. Joining me in London, my panel, former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove and GB News contributor Paul Cox. Oh dear, Paul Cox, there we have it, you see?
Look, first of all, it was Lammy, wasn't it? It was unbelievable, and the things that he said, and now we've got Miliband, and there's just receipts everywhere, just lying around all over the place. Do you know what? What I could accept is if they said all those things, went on the marches, which, by the way, is ridiculous, and then continue to say the same things once they were in those positions. But they don't. They backtrack. They obfuscate. They never really say, oh, well, what I said back then I believe in now. So we can't trust a word they say, because they just seem to be like weather vane senior cabinet members who will say one thing in front of their audience, and when it comes to Donald Trump, they'll say something completely different. We don't need people like that. I don't agree with Ed Miliband at all, but if he at least now said, I stand by everything I said, I don't like Donald Trump, and I'm going to tell him that, I could have some respect from Ed Miliband, but I don't have any respect for him at all.
Well, I'm confused why Andy Burnham would give him the post as Foreign Secretary anyway, given the things that he'd said.
I mean, he probably has concluded that for Labour's electoral prospects, it's advantageous to have Ed Miliband out of the country as often as possible, and putting him on a plane and sending him around the world is a good thing from that point of view. I always found it extraordinary, actually, what Labour politicians were willing to say, bearing in mind that they had aspirations to form a government at some point, and you never quite know who you're going to be having to work with around the world. I think it's so much better to just take the line that it's for other democracies to decide who their politicians are, and we decide who our politicians are. But to be honest, Ed Miliband's comments are at the politer end of things that were said by Labour politicians. The sort of extent of what was said, the gratuitousness of what was said, I always just used to find utterly extraordinary. And I don't think it does us any favours with the Trump administration. He's clearly got a long memory when it comes to these sorts of things. And as Paul says, the receipts are everywhere.
Yeah, it seems that they often, if you challenge many who've said rude things about Donald Trump, they then bring back some of the things that... It wasn't Marco Rubio, who's the other one? His deputy.
J.D. Vance.
J.D. Vance, yes. They often bring back things that J.D. Vance called him this and that, and they can work together. But it's not the same, is it? Because he's appointed J.D. Vance, and they've obviously come to an understanding. But I'm not sure Ed's going to go down well. Let's bring in my panel in Washington, D.C. Former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Laurie Watkins, you heard what he had to say. He's our foreign secretary. He's the one that's going to be going to talk to Donald Trump.
Good luck. I hope that he's successful. I hope that he has experience dealing with a raging narcissist. If he's able to do his own manipulation or cajoling or, flattering that a lot of people are able to get through the situation, or they're able to keep things copacetic with the president and not tick him off, then that to me, I would count that as a good meeting, a good engagement.
Yeah, but the vital thing you said there was not tick him off. Listen, Niall, if somebody called me all those things and then they were in front of me and I was the leader of the free world, I'm not so sure that I might be smiling on one side, but on the other side, I'd be recalling everything they said.
Yeah, Ed Miliband is a very silly and unserious politician, frankly, and the comments he's made about Donald Trump in the past, absolutely outrageous. And the reality is that I think in Washington, within the Trump administration, there is a very low opinion of Ed Miliband. And I think that he is immediately viewed with a great deal of suspicion, with very good reason, actually. And I cannot think of somebody who's, who could be a worse appointment, actually, for Andy Burnham as Foreign Secretary, excuse me, than Ed Miliband. I think this was just a deal to stop Miliband from running against Burnham. Miliband wanted a top position. He was denied the position of Chancellor. He was given Foreign Secretary. But Miliband's appointment, I think, is an absolute disaster for Britain. And I'm in no doubt that it's all going to end in tears in terms of relations with the United States for the Burnham government. And Miliband is somebody who has been extremely undiplomatic in the past with regard to his comments about President Trump, this administration, but also his net zero zealotry puts a big mark on his back here in Washington. And net zero is absolutely hated by the Trump administration. And so, Miliband, I think that, he's going to find it extremely difficult here in DC. And he'll be viewed by many as a green village idiot.
I've got to say, Nana, that it would be box office to see the briefing packs on both sides, both Ed Miliband's briefing pack and Donald Trump's briefing pack for that meeting, because no doubt there'll be the quotes listed in it just for information purposes, if nothing else. It would be quite spectacular if those were ever to appear in the public domain, I suspect.
Laurie, you wouldn't
and don't put it past Donald Trump that he won't publicly mortify or try to embarrass him. Kind of like the Vladimir Zelensky visit in the Oval Office between Donald Trump and J.D. Vance really going into him. I don't know. What if something like that were to occur? Donald Trump is very manipulative and he knows exactly what he's doing, so I wouldn't be surprised if he did a setup like that.
Yeah, I think it would be hilarious, don't you think, Paul? I'd love to see it.
I know Nana's like, yes, do it.
Look,
get the popcorn.
I would absolutely love it. I mean, Zelensky stood up for himself, okay? Ed Miliband is not going to stand up for himself. He's going to crumple like a wet Weetabix. There is no chance that Ed Miliband... I mean, Niall's right. I mean, I've never said Niall's wrong, so why would I start now? But Niall's right. Ed Miliband is the international face of Great Britain. It's embarrassing.
It really is.
It really is embarrassing.
Yeah, well, well, hey, we'll see what happens, because Ed Miliband is our Foreign Secretary and he will have to face Donald Trump. I'm sure Donald Trump will have all of those comments that Ed has made. But following his appointment, Ed Miliband said the government is committed to nurturing our strong and enduring essential alliance with the US. All right, well, stay with us because more is coming up in the next hour, including this.
If you came over and you got temporary protective status, and its name itself, it says temporary. That doesn't mean you can't go for a family visa.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to feel fresher for all of us today. Showers for many, especially towards the north and west. Thunderstorms for some, impactful thunderstorms with hail, lightning and torrential rain. Now, we've already seen some showers to start the day towards the north. We'll see showers pop up also across parts of Wales, western and northern England. Longer spells of rain for Northern Ireland, western Scotland, but the biggest storms are likely to develop through the afternoon for northeast Scotland with hail, thunder, 50 millimetres of rain accumulating in several hours. Dry, though, yet again through the Midlands, East Anglia and the South East, although with a fresher feel. Temperatures back towards average, mid-20s with lower humidities. However, for much of Scotland, it's going to feel actually quite miserable in places. A lot of rain there through the north and west of Scotland, 13 Celsius, a strong breeze. Some brighter spells towards the east, but only in between these lively thunderstorms. A little drier to end the day for Northern Ireland, but for much of northern and western England as well as Wales, we've got these scattered showers. They'll be hit and miss. Some places will avoid them. Others will get a bit of a soaking, but they avoid, once again, East Midlands, East Anglia and the South East, staying dry as we end the day and go into the start of Thursday. Clear spells overnight. A bit more comfortable for sleeping, however, with those lower humidities, a fresh breeze coming from the northwest. Temperatures in the low teens rather than the high teens that we've seen during the last few nights. We start the day on Thursday with, again, significant contrasts across the UK. Dry, bright and warm in the south, but cloudy and cool with a strong breeze into the north and northeast. Showery rain coming south, breaking up through the day to give some drier and brighter weather. Certainly an improving picture for northern parts with some sunshine coming through. Staying dry once again in the south, however, with highs of 24 or 25 Celsius, much cooler towards the north.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories. And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Hello, welcome to GB News. We're live from London with the stories shaping Britain and America. Coming up, Europe under siege just days after 70,000 migrants overwhelmed Spain's border. Another mass crossing is already being planned. Can scenes like this be stopped? Miles Miliband, Britain's greenest cabinet minister, is burning the jet fuel as he meets the Trump administration today. What could possibly go wrong?
I think this trade deal is a really dangerous Trojan horse for which we seem to be locking ourselves in America in Donald Trump's boot.
MAGA mutiny. Trump's immigration chief is under fire from the MAGA movement. Has the White House gone soft on deportations?
You came over and you got temporary protective status, In its name itself, it says temporary. That doesn't mean you can't go for a family visa.
The political Prince Oscar-winning Kate Blanchett has hailed Prince William as an extraordinary climate leader. But is that really the role of the future monarch?
The climate debate and the environmental debate was getting very negative, very doom and gloom. And I wanted to inspire that hope and optimism.
Yes, reminds us of his father. Jaws in Jersey, a 12-foot shark forced swimmers out of the sea in the English Channel. One of America's top experts will reveal why. I'm Nana Aquir, and this is The Late Show Live. I'm Nana Aquir. This is The Late Show Live. Welcome if you just joined us. Now, joining me this evening in London is my panel, former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove and GB News contributor Paul Cox. And in Washington, D.C., former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Welcome. Right, let's do it. A GB News alert this hour, and a major split is emerging in President Trump's MAGA base, and it's all over these comments. Have a listen.
What I encourage people to do is help yourself. You have to try to go through the system legally. If you came over and you got temporary protective status, in its name itself, it says temporary. But that doesn't mean that while you're here underneath temporary protective status, you can't try to change your status. That doesn't mean you can't go for a family visa.
Right, OK, so that is Mark Wayne Mullen, President Donald Trump's Homeland Security Secretary. And for those comments, he's been branded a people pleaser and not MAGA. It also emerging that members of the president's inner circle have been highly critical of Mullen for his alleged failure to deport millions of illegal migrants. His approach starkly contrasts with that of his predecessor, Kristi Noem.
Leave now. If you don't, we will find you and we will deport you.
She's beautiful, isn't she? But I wouldn't get on the wrong side of her. Good girl. With me now is former Chief of Staff to Marco Rubio, Matt Terrell. Matt, welcome to the programme. Thank you very much for joining us. I like her. I thought she was amazing. But has Mark Wayne, has he gone soft with what he's saying? Because that doesn't really chime with what Donald Trump has been doing with the ICE agents that have been out there deployed to remove illegal migrants.
Well, look, we saw on the heels of those comments by the secretaries him come out and essentially say that if you're in the country illegally, you need to leave. So, look, I think a lot of people in the MAGA base hear those kind of comments, and they go back to thinking back to years past. Whenever you talk about comprehensive immigration reform, many people in the MAGA movement think about amnesty. But in the end, that's rhetoric. What really matters is the record. And President Trump has an extraordinary record on immigration. You look at last month, ICE had a record-setting month where they arrested over 50,000 individuals related to immigration. You've seen over 2 million people illegal aliens self-deport from the country, which is really what you want to see. You want to see those who are here in the country illegally self-deport. But ICE has been doing their job as well and going after those people who choose not to self-deport in this country who are here illegally. That's all under President Trump. And you compare and contrast that to President Biden, where you had a wide open border under the Biden administration, millions of people coming to the country. So in the United States, the MAGA movement, the majority of Americans, they support President Trump in terms of his securing the border, ensuring that we have people who are not in this country legally out of the country. And also, look, it's something that the UK wants as well. You've seen under your previous Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, already 70,000 people crossing the country illegally on small boats. This is a problem in the UK. Thankfully, in the United States, President Trump has had a strong record when it comes to immigration, not just strong rhetoric.
Yeah, he's not messing about, and I think in the UK we could learn a thing or two about that. But you guys are not members of any sort of convention like the ECHR, which kind of ties our hands and makes it very difficult to deport anyone or to act in a way like President Donald Trump has, to send people back to where he believes they are from.
Correct. I mean, look, it comes down to leadership at the end of the day. We've been where you are in the UK. We, under President Biden, like I said, 4 years of an open border. You had up to roughly 300,000 individuals crossing over through the border monthly under President Biden. Millions of people under his administration not just get into the country, but President Biden not do what you need to do in terms of removing those people who are in the country illegally from the country. President Trump is doing that with ICE. He secured the border, and this is a national security crisis. You're seeing that in the UK. There's no question about that. We saw that under President Biden. So as it relates to the Secretary's comments, look, there's no question. People are looking for strong rhetoric right now, but they're also looking for a strong record. And thankfully, President Trump has delivered on his campaign promise, and that was to secure the border. He's done that. That's also removing people from the country illegally from the country. This was a major issue in the last election here in the United States. I think no question it's going to be a major issue politically going forward in the UK as well.
Yeah, and I think, well, Joe Biden, I mean, he wasn't really there, was he? He didn't really know what was going on. It was quite obvious. I don't know why people didn't admit that it was clear that he didn't know what day it was, let alone where he was. But do you suspect things will just blow over then? This is just a sort of dip in the road. A couple of people not happy with what has been said, but actually actions speak louder than words. And right now, as you said, President Donald Trump is he's delivering.
Yeah, President Trump is delivering. His team is delivering. And look, I think it comes down to recognizing that, yes, you have Laura Loomer and Steve Bannon and other people who have weighed in on this, expressing their frustrations and their views with the comments made by the Secretary. But in the end, the decision will be made by the founder of the MAGA movement, and that's President Donald J. Trump. You know, every cabinet member serves at the pleasure of the President of the United States. But look, in the end, the MAGA movement will follow President Trump on this. I suspect he's going to stand by, of course, the Secretary. And you got to look beyond immigration. You're seeing the homeland here very secure under President Trump, and the Department of Homeland Security playing a major role in that. The FIFA World Cup, Secretary Mullen and his team, others did a great job on security there. And then it's not just foreign terrorism you got to worry about. It's protecting the homeland from recognizing crime and homicides under President Trump this year alone. Early this year, you've seen homicides down. You've seen robberies down. Again, go back to the record. And it's not just the MAGA movement, it's the voters. We're in an election year right now. Voters across the aisle are going to be looking at this. Democrats, Republicans, independent voters. They care about safety, security, and securing that border. It comes down to recognizing, yes, cabinet secretaries will have things to say, but it's what President Trump says and what he does that matters. And Americans right now across the country are proud of what President Trump is saying, but more importantly, what he's doing. He secured the border. That's what we needed, particularly the dismal record of President Biden.
Yeah, well, he certainly secured the borders. There's no argument about that, whichever party you're from. Matt Terrell, thank you very much. He's a former Chief of Staff to Marco Rubio. Thank you. All right, let's speak to political commentator Stephen Kent, who joins us now. Stephen, you have to admit Donald Trump has done a pretty good job when it comes to securing his borders. And even if there are a few people who seem a bit woolly around the edges and aren't up for it, the American people must be very happy that that situation is now under control.
It's one of the only areas in which Donald Trump's overall approval is still strong. Immigration is what drove the last election, and Donald Trump has by and large delivered on that by making the border all but sealed off and handling deportations, not at record pace, but at least in keeping with one of the most prolific deporters of the last 15 years, which was President Barack Obama. His numbers were actually pretty remarkably high, anywhere from 340,000 to 400,000 a year. Large numbers. Of course, you saw a huge downturn during the Biden administration, and Donald Trump is keeping pace with that. I find this sort of rumor mongering and this backstabbing that's going on in MAGA world to be a little bit puzzling. I don't know what else I can say that Matt hasn't already said in your last segment, but this just sort of seems to be political rabble-rousing that has no point.
Yeah, I do find it confusing myself, because I think to myself, well, even if there is somebody who's spoken a little more softly about immigration and they don't really approve of what he's saying, the bottom line is that actions speak louder than words, and even if he's saying that, the results speak for themselves, and the UK would love to be able to do what America has done. I think many people in this country would love to see that happen, but we have lots of bollards in the way, like the ECHR, and we've enshrined it into our law, so it makes it difficult for us to get rid of it.
Horrible.
Whereas you guys have your constitution, you've got your president, and he's got his orders, executive orders, and he can do things that without hindrance from outside influence.
Yeah, well, we have our own laws. We don't have to answer to Brussels on everything. And, you know, Markwayne Mullen has always been an immigration hardliner. Again, this seems to be drawn up almost out of nowhere. His career in the Senate was that of a border hawk, someone who was always pushing to increase border security, deportations, finishing the wall, cracking down on overdue visas and people working without documentation. But of course, there is also a practical problem that every administration faces, which is the private sector comes forward and says, hey, you're deporting our laborers who are working in the fields or on the farms, the dairy industry. I mean, when Mullen was addressing this audience, he was specifically in front of a crowd of people in the Oklahoma dairy industry. And dairy and delivering milk to people's fridges is a 365 day a year job. You have to constantly be delivering that product and extracting it from cows. And it happens to be the case that upwards of 80% of that workforce is migrant labor. Now, that doesn't mean that the immigrant population performing that job are illegal. It just means that these are immigrants. We had this argument within the right in America when Vivek Ramaswamy was arguing that we do in fact need to bring in more high-tech, high-education workers from India to drive our tech sector and the AI race. And these same influencers, Steve Bannon, Loomer, Jack Posobiec, they all went completely feral because of the idea of bringing in legal, highly skilled and educated Indian workers. And frankly, that's just racism. That's not about anything other than racism. And it's really not helpful to the future of the United States. We need
they might argue
people.
that there could be that same talent in the US, that in fact they should invest in talent that is in the US.
They can apply for the job. The jobs are posted.
Well, that's true, there is
Just
that. But all I'm saying is it could be racism. But on the other hand, they might be thinking that, well, why don't we pitch it to our own people here first before we start outsourcing? But on the flip side, where you have the problem with a lack of labour, our problem is that, well, there are huge companies that benefit so heavily from housing these migrants, and lawyers who benefit from, putting these migrant cases forward. They don't want it to stop. And I don't know how we're going to do it, Stephen, but I do appreciate your thoughts. Thank you very much. That's Thank you, political commentator Stephen Kent. Well, joining me is my panel, former Conservative Minister Tom Persclub and GB News contributor Paul Cox. Yeah, you see, Tom, this is the problem, isn't it? There are other forces that do not want this to end. So we don't need to name them, but there are big companies that house many of these migrants. One company in particular that's become £1 billion business now since this, and they don't want it to stop, really, do they? The more migrants, the more money, because that money comes from the government and they find the accommodation. And also, lots of landlords are now being kicked out of the industry because of all the new laws that are coming into place, and those properties are being snapped up again by these big companies. We've got lawyers, we've got NGOs, we've got all these people benefiting. It would be bad news for them if this ended.
I think one of the really interesting sort of anecdotes from my time in government, but it sort of speaks to the conversation that you've just been having with your guests, is you get direction from the top of government. Everybody sits around the cabinet table and says, yes, we need to cut visa numbers, for example, on the legal migration side, until it comes to their specific sector that's knocking on their door in their individual department that they care about, where we should take a different approach. And I always used to take a very firm line in that we're saying we're going to cut visa numbers, and that's precisely what we're going to do. And I think in the US context, what you're seeing is a bit of briefing and counter-briefing, and that's the nature of politics. But you've got a really clear steer, a really clear direction of travel with the Trump administration, which I think is refreshing. And if we were to apply some of the principles that Donald Trump and his administration have put in place in the US context, we would achieve on a lot of voters' aspirations in this country to deal with illegal migration.
But they're not going to do it, because I pointed out all the vested interests. There are so many vested interests in keeping this going that they're not going to do this, are they?
Sorry, Tom.
No, I was just going to say, I think that public opinion now is just so strongly in demand of action that politicians just can't ignore this anymore.
Well, Andy Burnham ignored it for 12 days once he became the Labour leader, the Prime Minister.
To ignore it, that's
actually. So it's very interesting to hear from inside government and Tom's perspective. If this was any other business, right? Let's just say this was a corporation of some kind. New business owner comes in, they set the objectives for the business. Those objectives are cascaded down, and then everybody within the business, no matter where they were, will be measured successfully or unsuccessfully against those objectives. What's clear to me, looking at government, is that's not true within government. There is a manifesto, and the objectives must come from that manifesto, and they're cascaded down. And then you've got people like Tom who takes a hard line, and you've got people not like Tom who don't take a hard line, and they look just at their department and they go, well, it's difficult to do this, it's difficult to do that. What you need is everybody rowing in the same direction in order for there to be success. And therefore, they would be measured on success. We could measure them on that success. And those who didn't pull weren't rowing in the right direction would ultimately fall by the wayside. But that's just not the case, because politics is different to business. The trouble is, we all look at politics and we all look at our country in the same way as we look at anything like business. We look at measuring the success, and we don't get the sense that they're all partaking in the same ethos.
And I think you were totally right. You put your finger on it. In particular, the difference between the UK setup and the US. They just haven't got this burden of legislation that holds them back on these issues. They haven't got those ECHR challenges. You think about the Rwanda instance, all the difficulties the government had. This government scrapped it, huge mistake. But my understanding is that in the US context, they have been able to send some test cases to Rwanda of illegal migrants. And in fact, they've used our accommodation as part of that, which is just so frustrating. And the difference too is that unlike this government, who has taken quite a soft line on this, the increases in removals numbers has largely been on the back of voluntary returns. But in the US context, there is a really realistic expectation that if you're there illegally, you will be removed. And that is the right approach, not least because it then encourages people to go voluntarily and to self-deport, because they know the inevitable conclusion is they will be removed.
Well, as in the UK, the inevitable conclusion is that you won't be removed. Let's bring in Washington's former Obama policy advisor, Laurie Watkins, and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Niall, Mrs T would be so angry to see this. She'd be literally turning in her grave if she could see what we have done with migration.
Yeah, I think she would have been absolutely appalled, and she would have demanded immediate action, actually. And I think that her view would have been that the US and the UK actually must work very closely together to defeat mass migration, secure their borders. She would have developed a very good rapport, I think, with the US administration on this. But you have a Labour government in place that is not only extremely weak-kneed, but also takes a very sneering approach towards towards the United States. And what President Trump has done has been to secure the US border within a matter of weeks after taking office for the second time. A staggering achievement, considering the fact that the US southern border is nearly 2,000 miles long, and yet the British government cannot secure the island of the United Kingdom, separated by a channel from France and the European Union. It's a spectacular failure of leadership. And you need to have a British government that has a real backbone, that's willing to stand up and defend the British people, stand up and defend British sovereignty and self-determination. But you have Britain led by a bunch of political donkeys, basically, is the reality. And Margaret Thatcher would have been absolutely appalled by the state of Britain today.
Because she was quite an incredible woman and she got things done, but somehow we're unable to get things done. I don't really know what the answer is, but one of them, a lot of people say that we should leave the ECHR, which is the thing that seems to be tying us from actually doing anything, and also all the big companies that seem to be benefiting. The whole thing is a complete industry, Laurie. It's like they don't want to stop it because, well, there's so many companies that would then be out of business if they weren't housing all these people at the cost of the taxpayer.
Well, I'm going to speak about here in the United States and some just mind-blowing and horrific, in my opinion, statistics came out today here in the United States, and that is, and I'm going to correct what Matt was saying earlier because his numbers were a little high, but that's fine. 46,000 people. You guys are talking about you don't arrest anybody, that nobody faces consequences. Here in the United States, under Mark Wayne Mullen, in June, there was 43,000 people who were detained in ICE custody. In July, so last month, that number rose by 3,000 to 46,000 people. Now, Nana, here is the problem that I have with that, and one of your guests talked about it earlier as it relates to business and industry and the economy and how many immigrants make this country run here in the United States. And this is my problem, is that ICE has not and refuses to release any statistics that clarify the breakdown of those numbers. And the breakdown, I say this, sure, people that have entered the United States illegally. Okay, great. People who overstayed a visa, lawful permanent residents, green card holders facing removal proceedings. This also includes these people. Individuals with temporary or other lawful statuses who were taken into custody while their cases were being adjudicated. You've seen videos of people in courtrooms being arrested and detained by ICE. Also asylum seekers and others with pending immigration cases. Those two categories that I just mentioned, they are here legally. In this country, they are allowed to be here. They have been vetted. Every single time that they go in for a check, they have to go through a completely new process to be vetted. That's not who we're talking about here. And an individual, specifically, I just went over the weekend about 600 miles away to Maine, where my family is from. And I went to Biddeford, Maine. Hopefully you recognize the name of Johann Sebastian Guerrero, a 25-year-old man from Colombia who was here in the United States legally. And they had the wrong guy. They killed him. He was a construction worker. And when I went there, the Colombian flag is flying. And you know what? This gutted me. This scene was his construction worker caution vest hanging there. He died going to work. And one more number that I'll tell you is Delancey Hall in New Jersey, that's run by GEO Group, the GEO Group. That's a made-for-profit prison company that builds prisons here in the United States of America. They reopened Delancey Hall. And just yesterday, there was the second person since they reopened was killed. He is a 39-year-old man, Edwin Lopez Carrero, from El Salvador, and he has been detained since June 18th. You want to know why he died? Because they refused to give him his blood pressure medication, his anti-seizure medication, his diabetes medication, and his cholesterol medication. So he died of a medical emergency. 39 years old, in ICE custody, the second person since this place reopened. So I've said it before, that's why a lot of people here in the United States are afraid to go into jails. They're afraid to be arrested. They're afraid, you might think that's a great problem to have as a deterrent. But it still should be humane. It should still be safe. People should not be dying in custody, and people certainly should not be losing their lives on the streets of the United States of America for being identified mistakenly and then, oh, we had the wrong person, because you can't get his 3-year-old daughter, her father back, and you can't get his wife, her husband back either.
Yeah,
so that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, listen, all those, mistaken identities, I guess with such a large number of people there are likely to be a few mistakes, and it's terrible if that mistake is happening to you. But on the flip side, people are self-deporting. They don't want to risk it, and they know they shouldn't be there. Now, isn't that great that instead of you having to do it, they're doing it themselves? Tom, this would be a wonderful situation in the UK if migrants were so frightened that after they've come here illegally and they thought they'd take advantage of the system to then feel that they need to get out because they don't really want to be caught.
I think that's right. I mean, I just think there has to be that clear understanding that you will be removed if you are in the country illegally. There has to be that expectation. That's the only way that you are going to shut down the channel problem. Everything else is just playing at it round the edges. The only thing, and the Australian context proves this, the US, and of course people should be safe in detention and be treated humanely. That goes without saying. But People who arrive illegally via small boats, for example, should expect to be detained and removed within a week. I think that's the right policy, and that is precisely the way that you get public trust back in behind borders and immigration. Because what is happening at the moment is bad for all immigration, because the public sees this issue quite understandably, whether it's legal migration or illegal migration, through the prism of small boats arriving on our shores and all the accommodation and people being in their communities who ought not to be there because they've come here without any permission for that to happen.
Yeah, all right. Well, listen, thank you for all your thoughts on that. Stay with us because still ahead.
The climate debate and the environmental debate was getting very negative, very doom and gloom. And I wanted to inspire that hope and optimism.
Oscar-winning Kate Blanchett has hailed Prince William as an extraordinary climate leader. Is that really the role for a future monarch? This is The Late Show, live only on GB News. Well, I've been sort of looking forward to this story in a way because I found it fascinating that a shark has been spotted because beachgoers were evacuated after a shark was spotted just 40 metres from the shoreline at St. Quen's Bay in Jersey on Saturday. Now, the shark was estimated to be between 10 and 12 feet in length and was first noticed by a lifeguard who was paddling on a rescue board when something swam beneath him. It's a bit scary, isn't it? Swimmers were allowed to return after lifeguards conducted a thorough sweep of the area, but the situation has been described as unprecedented. All right, well, with me now is the CEO and Chief Scientist at Ocean First Institute, Dr. Mickey McComb. I can't say it. Macomb-Koza. Have I said it? Macomb-Koza. How do I say it?
Yes.
I got it.
You got it, Koza.
Lovely, lovely name. I'm not going to try and say it again, Mickey. But let's talk about why the shark is here, because it's in the Channel, right? So that is the English Channel. This is the same, not exactly the very stretch of land, but within the same region of land. Lots of people taking those dinghies and coming across to the UK in. Are those creatures thinking, ooh, there's potential food sources here?
Well, certainly when we see these animals, these sharks in these areas, they are definitely looking for food and they're looking for prey, and humans are really not on the menu. So this is an extraordinary opportunity for us to learn about where these sharks are and where they go. And if this is indeed a white shark that has been sighted, again, we haven't confirmed that, but if it is, this is really rare. This isn't something that we see regularly. And this is a real opportunity for us to begin to understand the movements and where these animals go. Just like we do, they have a preferred temperature range that they love to live in, and they follow that temperature range. So in the summer, this is an area where the prey is there, the temperature is right. So we have conditions conducive to seeing white sharks, but recall there are other species that we know are in that area. So we really have to be sure that this sighting is truly a white shark. And if it is, it is remarkable. These animals historically have been in Europe, but their numbers are not high. So what you're seeing right there is an oceanic white tip. That's not a white shark, but these sharks in these regions, it would be truly remarkable for us to confirm that this is a white shark in the Channel.
When you say humans are not on the menu, they could potentially bite your head off and then go, oh, spit it out. I don't want to eat that, but that's your head. Do you know what I mean? So that's the problem with these things. They don't really want to eat you, but once they've taken your leg or arm off or even your head, it's sort of all over, isn't it? And they do bite humans. And they may acquire a taste for humans if they can't get anything else. Could they acquire a taste?
Not really. I think what we see is, sharks are so rarely engaging with people. If you really look at the statistics, there's anywhere from 3 to 5 fatal attacks with sharks on people globally annually. So you have a better chance of dying from many other things, getting hit by a vending machine. So the numbers are really low, and I think it's good for people to understand the presence of sharks is really a healthy sign for our ecosystems. And shark populations have been rebuilding globally thanks to management and conservation efforts. And so to be able to see a white shark in this region would truly be a conservation victory, because many of these animals, their numbers are low, and many shark species right now are struggling. And so to see this animal is really, it could be really wonderful for conservation and for us to understand where these populations are expanding into. We know they're in Canada and, in the United States on the northeast coast, but the preferred range of temperature is there during the summer in the English Channel. So it's possible.
Oh, wow. Do you think it's partly to do with climate change that they're coming this way? Because it's quite warm in the UK. We've not had this sort of 30-degree every day. I mean, I can go out and I know that it's going to remain nice and hot for the most of the day. And that's not normal in this country. You literally need to prepare for 3 or 4 seasons in one day.
Yeah. So I would answer that by saying, climate affects temperatures in the ocean, and sharks, just like us, we have a certain temperature range that we like. And what we are seeing and observing in sharks is many of them are moving into regions that are a little bit different as a response to changing temperatures. So absolutely, we're starting to see populations not migrating as far down south as they used to in response to temperature changes. So it's absolutely plausible. And they're also following their prey, and prey items, just the fish and seals, are also responding to changes in temperature. So it's absolutely possible that we're starting to see changes in where these animals go.
And very finally, have you swam with sharks?
Absolutely.
Really? Were you not scared?
Absolutely.
You might get eaten?
No, I've swam with all kinds of shark species: tiger sharks, bull sharks, lemon sharks, hammerhead sharks. I've even been in the water with white sharks, and they are incredible. They're wonderful and well-adapted animals, and they've been on the planet and they've lived through 5 mass extinction events. They are truly, their story is a story of survival, and there are over 500 different shark species swimming in the ocean today, all of which have their own special adaptations. And so to swim with them in the water and to see them is truly extraordinary. Not as scary as you would think.
Presumably you were in a cage. That's why you're in a cage. You were in a cage, right? You didn't just go in and with your flippers and...
No. I was in a cage with all the white sharks, yes, but the rest of the sharks, no. I work with sharks all the time, and it's extraordinary, really. They're not as scary as you would think.
All right. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Really lovely to talk to you.
Thank you.
I'm going to give it a go. That's Mickey Mkombza. Thank you very much.
You got it. Thank you.
She's the CEO and Chief Scientist at Ocean First Institute. Thank you very much. She's a doctor, I'll have you know. All right, let's take a quick look at some of the other main news headlines. Victims Minister Alex Davies-Jones has told BBC Newsnight that Prime Minister Andy Burnham is looking into the possibility of launching a public inquiry into the UK activities of paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. In America, excuse me, Elon Musk has predicted that his Starlink system could deliver a majority of the world's internet within 10 years. Elsewhere, a man has been arrested on suspicion of arson in what was believed to be wildfires, which forced more than 60,000 people to evacuate from the city of Spokane in Washington state. And finally, former President Barack Hussein Obama is celebrating his 65th birthday today. In a post on social media, former First Lady Michelle said, "Every day you make me a better person, and I'm thankful for all the ways you show up for our family and our country." Still to come.
The climate debate and the environmental debate was getting very negative, very doom and gloom, and I wanted to inspire that hope and optimism.
Hollywood has crowned Prince William a climate leader. But should a future monarch be taking sides? Plus, how many people at the Bank of England do you think work from the beach? Not for the beach, but from the beach, that's right. The number may or may not surprise you. Stay tuned to find out. This is The Late Show live only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's going to feel fresher for all of us today. Showers for many, especially towards the north and west. Thunderstorms for some, impactful thunderstorms with hail, lightning and torrential rain. Now, we've already seen some showers to start the day towards the north. We'll see showers pop up also across parts of Wales, western and northern England. Longer spells of rain for Northern Ireland, western Scotland, but the biggest storms are likely to develop through the afternoon for northeast Scotland with hail, thunder, 50 millimetres of rain accumulating in several hours. Dry, though, yet again through the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, although with a fresher feel. Temperatures back towards average, mid-20s with lower humidities. However, for much of Scotland, it's going to feel actually quite miserable in places. A lot of rain there through the north and west of Scotland, 13 Celsius, a strong breeze. Some brighter spells towards the east, but only in between these lively thunderstorms. A little drier to end the day for Northern Ireland, but for much of northern and western England as well as Wales, we've got these scattered showers. They'll be hit and miss. Some places will avoid them. Others will get a bit of a soaking, but they avoid, once again, East Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast, staying dry as we end the day and go into the start of Thursday. Clear spells overnight. A bit more comfortable for sleeping, however, with those lower humidities, a fresh breeze coming from the northwest. Temperatures in the low teens rather than the high teens that we've seen during the last few nights. We start the day on Thursday with, again, significant contrasts across the UK. Dry, bright and warm in the south, but cloudy and cool with a strong breeze into the north and northeast. Showery rain coming south, breaking up through the day to give some drier and brighter weather. Certainly an improving picture for northern parts with some sunshine coming through. Staying dry once again in the south, however, with highs of 24 or 25 Celsius, much cooler towards the north.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories. And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in tomorrow, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Now, Prince William has been praised by actor Kate Blanchett for being an extraordinary climate leader, adding that he inherited his interest from his father and that his dedication is clear through how hands-on he is. And in our other royal news, Her Royal Highness Princess Eugenie and Mr. Jack Brookbank welcomed their daughter on Monday, the 3rd of August. The princess gave birth to their baby girl at a hospital in Lisbon, Portugal. Oh, well, with me now is royal journalist Kinsey Schofield. Kinsey, welcome. Really good to talk to you. So let's talk about this, because Prince William, which we adore him, but his dad was always castigated for going on about the environment. In fact, it was one of the things that he had to promise that he wouldn't talk about because people were sick of it.
And remember, he was teased for talking to his plants. That's one of my favorite Prince Charles stories, now King Charles. You know, I think it's fair to say that any public figure has to be careful because climate has become politically polarizing. William's challenge is to champion conservation without appearing to endorse one side of the policy debate. So far, Earthshot has largely managed to stay in that lane, but he isn't campaigning for a political party or lobbying Parliament to pass specific legislation. Earthshot rewards entrepreneurs, scientists, and inventors who develop practical environmental solutions. That's very different from engaging in party politics. And to your point, the King Charles, was very outspoken about pollution, biodiversity, and sustainable agriculture long before these issues became politically fashionable. I remember Prince Philip was also very passionate about wildlife. And I'd also stress almost every major charitable issue has a political dimension, whether it's mental health, homelessness, domestic violence, veterans, and healthcare. They all intersect with government policy, yet we've never suggested royals should abandon those causes because politicians debate them.
Well, I don't know. I think in the UK we have been quite annoyed with King Charles actually talking about architecture, talking about things that he shouldn't be talking about, instead of just getting out and representing. However, I think people often conflate net zero with conservation and all the things to do with environmentalism, which actually I think most people would like a nice environment. They would like the animals to be cared for. They'd like all the good things. So I don't really have an issue with it. And I think if there is one man that can turn the dial, it is Prince William, because everyone loves him. And he's just amazing, isn't he?
Oh, he's absolutely precious. And you're right. People disagree on how to address climate change, but acknowledging environmental challenges isn't the same as endorsing one political ideology. William has generally focused on encouraging innovation rather than prescribing government policy. And to your point, we all want to leave the earth better than we found it. Exactly. I mean, I think that makes us good people, that's what our objective is.
Now let's talk about the new baby. Oh, lovely. Do we have a name for the new baby?
We don't have, that's the big mystery so far, but it is wonderful news for Princess Eugenie and Jack Brooksbank. They've welcomed their first daughter and their third child. The baby actually joins in the line of succession, but under long-standing royal rules, she won't receive an HRH title because royal titles are generally passed through the male line. And as you know, Jack is a private citizen. It's another reminder that not every grandchild of a monarch automatically becomes a prince or a princess. The rules surrounding royal titles remain surprisingly specific. Eugenie and Jack have built a life that's noticeably more private than many members of the royal family, splitting their time between Portugal and the UK while raising their young family largely away from the spotlight, which, I mean, with some of the chaos surrounding her father, I can totally understand why. And this baby is 15th in line to the throne, if you can believe it. And her day-to-day life is expected to be far removed from official royal duties.
So do the boys, do her sons get HRH then?
No, and because Jack is the father and it's not one of the male heirs, they don't have the HRH. But Buckingham Palace did make a statement saying that the family is delighted, and it reflects what appears to be a genuinely close relationship between Eugenie and King Charles. It's obviously not personal, but we're going to be watching for the announcement of her name, which is often the most anticipated part of any royal birth.
Oh, all right, Kinsey, I'm going to let you go, although I don't really want to because I want to talk a little bit Harry and Meghan. Is there any news on those two? Any news on Harry and Meghan? Come on, I'll sneak it in.
Well, I'm sure it will surprise you to know that Meghan wished herself a happy birthday, a happy 45th birthday on Instagram. I'm sure that just blows your mind that she took time out of her day to jump in a pool with balloons for herself and wish herself a happy birthday on Instagram.
On her own?
Yeah, on her own in a bathing suit, no children, no husband in the post, just Meghan flaunting it for the whole world to see. Happy 45, girl.
Wow. All right, Kinsey Schofield, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. She's a royal journalist. Joining me now in London, my panel, former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove and GB News contributor Paul Cox. Paul, how do you feel about Prince William literally taking on the mantra that his dad had when he talked about the environment? And, you know, it's not that we don't want him to talk about it, and I do appreciate the causes, but they are politicised and it just might not work.
Now, personally, I preferred it when our princes and kings rode into battle on horseback, had 12 mistresses and, you know, maybe beheaded the wife for a bit of insubordination. I'm not so interested in this kind of flouncing around, worried about the environment. I want want them to be worried about the protection of our shores. I really do. And I know that sounds quite old-fashioned for someone of my years, 46. But I get kind of fed up. And I am slightly disillusioned by the fact that he's just going to be like his dad. If he's just going to be like his dad, I want it to be just like his grandmother. I want another Queen Elizabeth II. As much as I like Wills, I don't want him to make this his mantra. I don't want this to be his thing. I want him to be talking about Great Britain.
Tom.
Look, I mean, it's such an important institution, critical for UK PLC. I actually am quite encouraged about the future with William. I think he is in the mould of his grandmother. I think he massively buys into the public service element, and that's supporting of good causes. He should steer off the overtly political stuff, of course. But I actually think that we're in safe hands when it comes to him, and I'm always willing him on.
All right, well, let's get the thoughts of our panel in America, in Washington. Former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Laurie, do you think that we're perhaps being unfair to William, because he's really nice, isn't he, really? I mean, I kind of like him, but I just don't want him to delve into the same space that his father delved into, and I don't want him to be political, even though I do agree that it's a kind of neutral cause, because we all want a nice environment, but it's still being politicised with things like net zero.
I think it's brilliant that he's getting involved in policy implications or policy proposals or issues that are affecting people all around the world, not just in Britain. It shows that he cares. It shows that he is current on what's going on. And I think that it's his responsibility. He should remain aware. And he was invited by, Bloomberg and some others who put this on. A big fancy event. I'm sure it was good for everyone that was involved as far as publicity, media, etc. But we'll see what he's going to do. Is he going to be like his brother a little bit? Is he going to go on and do more interviews and sit-downs and things like that?
What, like Prince Harry?
If he's going to do something to carry on and get people to come to agreements again, like the Paris Climate Accord, then I'm all for it. If he can convince Donald Trump to take climate change seriously.
Yeah, and what about Prince Harry? Just very briefly, whilst you mention, what do you make of him? Is he talked about in America much?
I mean, sure, not as much as you all talk about him. But I guess you all are happy. I guess you all are happy that it looks like fences have been mended to where the grandchildren are having a relationship with the grandfather. So that's good.
Well, we're happy as long as he doesn't then try and sell some more stories, because we're all sick of hearing them. Niall, what do you make of Prince William?
Well, I think, overall in Prince William, I think he will make a tremendous king. I think that the public perception of Prince William on both sides of the Atlantic is extremely positive, and there's a huge contrast, of course, with the public perception of Prince Harry. And also Meghan Markle, who are viewed overwhelmingly negatively, I would say, especially in the UK, but also here in the US. Many people intensely dislike Harry and Meghan. And part of the reason for that is that Harry and Meghan are viewed as increasingly political figures. And it's important that William, I think, avoid that kind of trap and avoid being in any way sort of embroiled in political matters, because I think that will affect his overall level of popularity. But I do think that Prince William is a far better character, personality than Prince Harry, who I think has been an absolute disaster. And William, I think, will make a very good king, but he's got to be very careful not to be sort of wrapped up in woke political causes, because that will undermine him. It will turn many people against him, I think. And so he's got to be very cautious here. But in terms of the big picture, I do think he'll make a wonderful king, and Kate is absolutely wonderful as well. And the contrast between William and Kate and Harry and Meghan is absolutely vast. There's a huge contrast.
Well, she's in a swimming pool on her birthday with balloons on her own, so I think that says it all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Massive contrast.
All right, well, let's get to some breaking news, which has just entered the GB newsroom. Authorities in California have arrested a man who was seen near a golf course owned by President Donald Trump in the Los Angeles area ahead of the president's visit for a fundraising dinner there. Jeannie John Teal was found with a pistol and illegal ammunition at the Trump National Golf Course in Rancho Palo Verdes, investigators say. Now, according to the Los Angeles Sheriff Department, he was observed walking throughout the golf course grounds, taking photographs and videos and appearing to monitor security planning activities. The arrest took place on Sunday afternoon. Well, with me now, my panel, former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove and GB News contributor Paul Cox in London, and in Washington, former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins and former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner. Niall Gardner, I will come to you because it's breaking right now. Your thoughts on this? Does this sound quite serious?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this could, well have been another attempted, assassination of the president, and I think that it underscores the immense risks, of course, that President Trump faces on a daily basis. He survived several assassination attempts already. This appears to be potentially the latest planned assassination of the president, and I think that the dangers are very, very real, and it also underscores, I think the venomous hatred there is out there towards President Trump among some figures on the left. It's an extremely unhealthy situation. He's the most targeted, president, I think, of modern times in the United States, and it's a damning indictment of his opponents that you have a state of affairs where President Trump's life is threatened on a regular basis. It's really, a very damning, reflection, I think, of the state of politics in the United States, especially in terms of the hatred and vitriol coming from some elements of the left in the United States. It's completely poisonous.
Tom Pursglove, your reaction to that news?
Well, I just find it chilling, and in the same way that I find it chilling the political violence that we've seen in this country. And I just worry that every time we have one of these incidents, it encourages more people to act in this way. They take their lead from individuals who go about behaving like this. And all of us, regardless of our party political labels or our affinities at the ballot box, have a responsibility, rather like we were talking about earlier in relation to anti-Semitism, to call out this scourge for what it is. Political violence will not stand. In a democracy, we choose our leaders through the ballot box. We respect those decisions, and everybody, man or woman, whatever your background, whatever your political views, should be calling this out tonight. And it's, credit to law enforcement for the work that they've done to identify this individual and hopefully have got on top of this and prevented an appalling atrocity from happening.
Laurie Watkins.
This is the first I've heard about this, and I've been speaking to sources and people in news across networks for the last 2 days because of what I do, and I've not heard one peep about this. So I'm going to have to look into this as soon as I hop off the chair and out of this desk, because I'm just very curious as to why this is the first time that we are hearing about this almost 3 days later. So I need to look into this information. I'm very curious about this.
Yeah, it is interesting.
On Election Day.
Yeah,
it's
right,
very interesting at this time that I'm noting also. So.
Interesting.
It's interesting.
Well, as the old saying goes, the right think the left are wrong and the left think the right are evil. And we've seen this play out with Ann Widdecombe, we've seen this play out in the US with Charlie Kirk. And I think what Laurie's rather cynically suggesting there is a bit of conspiracy here because it's good timing. I don't agree with that because
I'm just saying I don't know why here in America we haven't heard about an assassination attempt of our president, and this happened on Sunday. That's what I'm saying. That is very curious to me.
Well, we don't know whether it's an assassination attempt, but there are things that point...
that Secret Service arrested him on Sunday, and we're just finding out about it. That's all I said. I think it's rather interesting, to say the least.
What I would say is this is against the backdrop of a number of assassinations of people on the right of politics. You only have to look to the reaction of those assassinations also, there's some glee taken, and you just don't see that from the right to the left, but you do see that from the left to the right. And I think this is a very worrying time for those on the right of politics.
Yeah, it is very concerning.
And the
but we will
left.
get all the...
Absolutely, the left as well.
Yeah.
Let's have a moment, please, Laurie, before you steal back some of the valour.
There is no valor, but we've talked on this show, I received an execution threat 2 weeks ago. So it's left and right. People are abhorrent. They say things and do things that they think they will not have a consequence about, that if they just go and apologize online, that it takes it away, and it doesn't. And so, no, I feel very seriously about this, in fact. I'm just very interested in why we have not heard about this here in the United States in almost 3 days. That's what I said.
I think she makes a good point, though. Why was it held back for so long? It seemed a bit odd.
Yeah, we'll find out, I guess.
Maybe just trying to understand, whether there's a wider network at play, etc. here.
All right. Well, listen, I've got to say a huge thank you to my brilliant panel, Niall Gardner, Laurie Watkins, Tom Persglub, and also Paul Cox. So I suddenly forgot who you were. How could I possibly forget? And as ever, a huge thank you to you for your company. This has been The Late Show Live. I'm Nana Acquare. I'll be back here tomorrow midnight in the UK, 7 p.m. Eastern. But don't forget as well, you can catch up on our YouTube channel. Go to gbnews.com or go to YouTube and stream us live as we're on. Or why not download the GB News app? It is completely free. You can catch up with all the programmes on this channel at your leisure. Well, it's been a pleasure as ever. I'm not back tomorrow, but I'm back on Saturday and Sunday at 3 o'clock UK time. Be there or be square. Enjoy.
Five hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me. Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow. We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Acquare, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories. And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And tune in as your favourite presenters are live across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Tune in this Thursday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home